What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 9SS. 211 League of Villains Strikes 5 Please subscribe. The 7 most famous plus-size models in the world. More. 119. 30. 40. Anzhe, how can you say that? Although you are now a professional hero, you must have some ways to deal with emergencies, but we don't have one. We will still be worried, and the students entrust such an important task to you. Give us 3. If the 3 of us can't do well, wouldn't it be a disappointment to the kindness of the students? So I think the 3 of us should continue to stand guard and stop resting. Hearing what Anzhe said, Shoto Todoroki said, they were not happy all of a sudden. It was not because of Anzhe's suggestion that they did this. In the end, the 3 of them fell to this point. Why is it so easy for him to say it now? Don't you need to fulfill your promise if you say it? Shoto Todoroki frowned. Why did he feel so irresponsible now? It was completely different from the way he met him at the beginning. Ha ha ha, don't be so serious. Of course I know 383. Since we have promised others, we must do it well. But even if we promise others, we need to rest well. Otherwise, how can we fight with others with our current physical strength? Hey, how do we protect them? Our main premise is to restore our abilities and take a good rest, so that we can protect them. Anzhe laughed out loud when he heard Shoto Todoroki say that. He wanted to test their determination, but he was surprised that Shoto Todoroki's determination was so great. Of course I know what you said, but if we take a break, what should we do if there is a sudden situation during our break? If we don't report it to our classmates in time, it will still cause a catastrophe. Hearing what Anzhe said, Shoto Todoroki realized that he had wronged Anzhe. Although he didn't apologize to Anzhe, his face was full of regret. Aren't there 3 of us here? We can each take turns, one person rests for a while, and the other person rests for a while. In this way, each of us can persist until that time, and this kind of situation will not happen again. What's the situation? What do you think? Anzhe said the plan he had already thought up, and the 2 people beside him nodded, thinking that the plan was good, so they implemented it according to Anzhe's plan. Aren't you standing guard with them outside, Anzhe? Why did you come back suddenly? Some students saw that Anzhe and Shoto Todoroki had returned, and they were still wondering, so they asked. After all, it concerns them. There is no room for carelessness in the current issue of survival. Because of the match just now, and I had another fight with Bakugo Katsuki, the energy consumed by the body was really too much, so the 3 of us decided to take turns to stand guard. Let the 2 of us come back to take a rest first, and then we will take turns to change after rectification. Don't worry, we will never AJFD, let each of you have problems, and we will definitely protect you well. Quote. Anzhe explained the situation of the current reduction to the students, and then sat down with Shoto Todoroki and began to repair. Is there really no problem like this? Can one person stand guard and look around? It's too dangerous. Didn't they agree with us at the beginning? 3 people will stand guard, and 1 person will stand in a corner. Now there is only 1 person left, how can we be safe? Some students were still worried and started to complain about Anzhe. At the beginning, the 3 of them obviously made an agreement, but now they backtrack. They really don't keep their promises. What kind of job is Hero S? I think he came here by cheating. It doesn't seem real at all. It's really disgusting, how can you deceive us like this? Anzhe listened to the students around him who didn't waver at all about their comments, so what should they do? Shoto Todoroki was also unmoved like Anzhe. The 2 of them should rest, drink and eat, and didn't care at all them. Seeing that Anzhe and Hongjiao didn't respond, the students became very bored and dispersed to start their own activities. Try this, I think it tastes very good, very delicious. I took a piece of dim sum and put it in my mouth. After the first bite, I felt very delicious, so I ruthlessly recommend it to everyone. Shoto Todoroki who was sitting next to him. Shoto Todoroki originally didn't like sweets, but it was hard to refuse, so he had to take a few mouthfuls as a symbol. Well, it tastes good. This sentence is still his sincere words, just like a person like him who doesn't like sweets. After eating these snacks, he will feel delicious and want to eat a second piece. Anzhe and Shoto Todoroki had a short rest and quickly changed to Bakugo Katsuki and came back. After all, Bakugo Katsuki was also very tired. 212 League of Villains Strikes 6 Please subscribe. Selena Gomez posts powerful bikini then and now. More. 625. 156. 208. Bakugo Katsuki. I just gave Shoto Todoroki a taste of these things, come and taste them, they are really delicious, I think you will like them too, although your appearance looks fierce, but I believe that every boy should have a girly heart. Anzhe deliberately handed the snack to Bakugo Katsuki's mouth, and now Bakugo Katsuki had to eat it even if he didn't want to. After all, his saliva stuck to it for others to eat naturally. It was bad, so he had no choice but to open his mouth and eat the snack. It's delicious. Bakugo Katsuki said words like gold. He was very cold and irritable. He definitely didn't like sweets. What about a person who doesn't like sweets? What are you guys doing? You are having such a happy chat. I really didn't expect it. When we came here just now, there were still a lot of snacks on the plate. The 3 of you took turns to go back and forth, and you have almost eaten. Why don't you give it to me? Shall we save some? Yaoyorozu Momo Ishido Mina and Jiro Kyoka hurried over seeing Anzhe and the others, and said with a smile when they saw that the dim sum plate in front of them had bottomed out. The food is delicious, that's why I eat a lot. Why didn't you keep it with you? Don't you still have a lot? Why do you want to grab ours? Anzhe smiled and pointed to the plate next to it. There were many more delicious things on the plate, but they didn't touch a single bite, and they were all going to leave it to the girls. After all, women come first. Ha ha ha. Ashido Mina laughed when he heard Anzhe say that. He had never seen Anzhe like this before. When he was an intern in Anzhe's office, Anzhe was serious every day. They will all perform their tasks well, and it is not like they can casually joke and play casually like they are now. Okay, the three of us have almost rested now, and then only the three of us will stand guard together. You can go to rest at ease, we will definitely take care of the surrounding situation. Anzhe and Bakugo Katsuki, the two of them rested again after a while, I told the students, and then got up again and went to the place they should observe. The atmosphere here is very good now, the students didn't realize that there was something approaching them, it was dangerous. When the three of Anzhe returned to the guard station, they suddenly had a bad feeling that something might happen in the next period of time, and this matter was not small. I always feel that something will happen next, the three of us must take good care of the little details. Anzhe no longer teased or played around like before, but became very seriously, with serious eyes. This made Bakugo Katsuki and Shoto Todoroki, who had just gotten used to Anzhe's appearance just now, suddenly a little uncomfortable. I've been having an ominous premonition since just now. Is something big going to happen in a while? I really don't know if the three of them can watch carefully. If we miss something, we will be in danger. I heard that people from the League of Villains seem to have known about our plan. Yaoyorozu Momo suddenly began to panic. She always felt that there was something big going on for a while, so she began to worry. 0. Seeking flowers. Why do people from the League of Villains know about our plan this time? Our plan this time is obviously carried out in secret, how could it be leaked? Ashido Mina was a little unbelievable. The teacher also said before that the plan this time it is carried out in secret, and only a few people know about it, even professional teachers don't know much about it. I always feel that there are spies in our school, otherwise, why would the League of Villains know about our activities every time? And they came at the right time, it feels like they came prepared. If there is no drama in our school, why do they know it so accurately every time? There is not even a single mistake. Yaoyorozu Momo frowned. Oh, it's better not to say these words indiscriminately, if someone listens to them, it may ruin the big thing. Jiro Kyoka reminded Yaoyorozu Momo, because she felt the same way, but she always felt that it was better not to say these words well. If the headmaster already knew about this matter and just pretended not to know, then they would be in serious trouble. Suddenly, there was some commotion in the grass, and Bakugo Katsuki Shoto Todoroki immediately entered the alert state, and found a classmate to tell all the students inside that there was danger coming. It's strange, even if we were to rest, how could the teacher disappear? This is too strange. Shoto Todoroki was a little puzzled, after all, how could the teacher leave so many of them here without worry, and he himself left? 213 League of Villains Strikes 7 Please subscribe. Students, are you all right? Just now we suddenly received news that the place here is already unstable. People from the League of Villains seem to have rushed here. Classmates, we must evacuate now. North American Shorthair Cat 3 Professional Hero S came and frightened everyone. The faces of North American Shorthair Cats were full of anxious expressions. Oh my god, didn't you say that this mission was carried out very carefully? Why did the people from the League of Villains know about it? That's right, are those things you said before lying to us? The people in the League of Villains are so powerful now, we are just a few students, how can we beat them in? 597. The people in it are not bothering, there are more powerful characters than the professional hero S. How could the three of you protect us? I still want to become a professional hero S to protect everyone. How can it be considered as my life in this kind of place? This is absolutely impossible. Teacher, you must find a way quickly, and you must take us out. The students chattered and said that everyone was full of resentment. They felt that this camping in the forest was wrong. If it wasn't because of this camping in the forest, how could so many of them be tricked into coming here? Now there is still life in danger, and it is all because of the fault of the camp in the forest. After they go back, they must tell the public the news, so that the public will be full of doubts about this academy. It was indeed our mistake this time, but don't lose your confidence. We have so many people, and I believe that all the students were admitted here by virtue of their own abilities. With your abilities, plus the three of us we will definitely be able to repel them, so everyone has to be confident, don't be so pessimistic, we will be able to escape. North American Shorthair Cats have already realized this situation when they first arrived, I didn't expect to come so quickly. In just 2 days, the people from the League of Villains have already arrived here. The most important thing now is to teach the students to transfer quickly, otherwise the consequences will be unimaginable, and they have to notify other professional hero S as soon as possible. Why are you arguing? Listen to me, everyone, hurry up and use your abilities. We must move quickly, otherwise it will be too late. The Mandalay Cat stood up immediately when he heard what everyone said. Her Majesty made the students shut up. Look, what's that? A classmate raised his head inadvertently, and saw purple smoke floating in the distance. Quick, move quickly, it's poisonous gas, if you inhale it, the consequences will be unimaginable. The North American Shorthair Cat also looked back, but his face changed drastically. It turned out that the people from the League of Villains had already started to act. The students here can absorb the poisonous gas, and with their current abilities, there is no way to contend with the poisonous gas. I can make a gas mask. Everyone, take my gas mask and cover your nose well. Yaoyorozu Momo immediately reacted, and then quickly made a gas mask, but her ability is limited, and the gas mask cannot be made all the time. She needs to rest. She first made 20 and was already weak. Everyone take these 20 gas masks first and protect yourself. Teachers, go and delay for a while, but you still have to rely on your classmates. Even when you are facing difficulties, you must believe that you will be able to do it. This is the professional hero S. After experiencing this incident, you will definitely become very strong, and by that time, your beliefs will also be more firm. Quote. The North American Shorthair wanted to delay time with the other two professions, Hero S, but she left such a sentence before leaving, which seemed to cheer up the mood of the students. Students, listen to me and organize everyone to follow what I said, and we will be able to delay this danger. I think everyone knows me very well. I am also a professional hero S. But for some reason, I came to be a student with you. Each of you wants to become a professional hero S. Now is the time to prove us. If we survive this attack, we will go back. If you do this, it will definitely impress others. So let's do our best. Anzhe stood up after the three teachers left, and he felt that in his current capacity, he should be able to help the students. 1.4. In fact, if there was only Anzhe alone, with his current ability, it would be a breeze to escape, but he couldn't rest assured of these classmates. Although they didn't communicate much, everyone was worthy of his cherishing and protection. Just tell me how to do it. From now on, we will definitely listen to you, and I believe we will be able to go out. I listen to you. The students seemed to trust him very much, and Anzhe became excited after hearing Anzhe's words. 214 League of Villains Strikes 8. Please subscribe. Next, listen to my command. Divide into 2 columns and act separately. Try to avoid the forest and don't stay in the forest for too long. Remember to run and never walk. If we walk, we will definitely take too long, then we have to wait here for her to finish the gas mask before we act separately, because we now see that the whole forest should be full of poison gas, so we must have a gas mask to carry out. We will continue the plan to come down. Anzhe stood on a step, then looked at the students below, and explained the main things clearly. The most important thing is that in addition to escaping, we have to have 3 teachers, because even if the 3 of them are professional hero S, they are evenly matched against so many villains, so we must go to help them, take them and escape 09 together. I believe everyone can do it. Anzhe paused, and then explained the last thing to everyone. Everyone felt that there was no problem, because they had so many people with great strength, they can definitely defeat the League of Villains based on their numbers. I've already made the Anzhe gas mask, and it looks like a lot, but during this time, I may need someone to carry me on my back, because my strength has been exhausted, and I'm really tired. Yaoyorozu after Momo finished all the gas masks in his hands, he lay directly on the ground. Ashido Mina stood beside Yaoyorozu Momo, and when he saw Yaoyorozu Momo was about to fall, he directly supported her with his hands. Everyone comes here to get a gas mask. Everyone must wear it, because the poisonous gas is very powerful and must not be inhaled. Anzhe distributed the gas masks to each student. After the students got the gas masks, they immediately put on the gas masks. After all, although they had courage, they were still afraid of losing their lives. Anzhe asked an Ashido Mina to carry Yaoyorozu Momo on his back, and then led all the students to the forest. They divided into 2 groups, some went there and some went here. Anzhe and the others have heard some noises, and feel that they are about to arrive at the battlefield, but they did not expect that something suddenly separated them. Now the students are all separated at once, and they are not together at all. There is no way for Anzhe's plan implemented. Anzhe looked around very anxiously, because he didn't know if the students were in any danger or attacked. The students must be very anxious and worried now. With their current psychology, it is still uncertain whether they can win. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect that the boy who fell into my hands turned out to be such a good-looking boy. I really can't bear to kill you, so why don't you play with me for a while? I will try my best to let you die. Slow down. Himiko Toga came out from the side, licking his knife, which surprised Anzhe. Anzhe never thought that there would be such a young girl in League of Villains. It's unbelievable. Don't girls nowadays have such twisted minds? What ability did you use to separate us? Anzhe immediately regained his composure, and now he felt that it was more important to know the whereabouts of his companions as soon as possible, but Anzhe had also been observing the girl opposite him. Since Himiko Toga can be recruited into the League of Villains, he must have extraordinary abilities. If he accidentally lets Himiko Toga get the upper hand, it will be bad. Don't worry, your classmates may be safe now, but after a minute or 2, I won't know for sure. After all, my teammates are very powerful. They might lose arms and legs or lose their heads. It's all possible. Himiko Toga slowly wanted to get closer to Anzhe, but Anzhe was very vigilant and kept a distance from him. You just stand there and don't move. If you want to call me 540 directly, then you can just come. But if you want to touch me, I'm sorry. Anzhe finally couldn't take it anymore, and opened his mouth to stop Himiko Toga. What are you doing? If you want to fight with me, how can I ignore you? Besides, I'm so interested in you, I just want to taste what you write. Why are you so unreasonable? Do you understand me? Himiko Toga suddenly appeared behind Anzhe, which surprised Anzhe. This was the last thing he expected. He didn't expect Himiko Toga to be so powerful that he could unconsciously appear behind him. Himiko Toga gave a weird smile, and then used his own knife to slash Anzhe's neck lightly, but Anzhe dodged it. Himiko Toga, seeing Anzhe dodging, began to laugh. 214 League of Villains Strikes 9. Please subscribe. Anzhe thinks that Himiko Toga is too dangerous. If he is not dealt with here, it will be very dangerous next time. Himiko Toga quickly used the knife in his hands to cut Anzhe's face, and a crazy smile gradually appeared on her face, giving people a very creepy feeling. When Anzhe was fighting with him, I felt that all the hairs on my body stood up, and goosebumps fell all over the floor. Anzhe felt that he had to make a quick decision. He moved his wings and flew into the air. Himiko Toga was standing under him, watching him. Anzhe suddenly launched a fierce attack, and the Thunder Dragon and Fire Dragon Lancers were caught by him like a normal meal. The strength seems to be endless, and he can always launch an attack. Himiko Toga is also very difficult to dodge. Painful, she pressed against Anzhe's neck tightly, and could break Anzhe's neck with a little force. 216 League of Villains Strikes 10. Please subscribe. The two of them may be a little tired from fighting, and Anzhe can't just waste time here, so Anzhe chooses to evacuate first to find other classmates. Himiko Toga originally wanted to continue chasing Anzhe, but it seemed that he had received some information. Chase Anzhe again. Anzhe wandered aimlessly in the forest, because he still didn't know where his classmates were. There was poisonous gas everywhere, and he couldn't see or hear any sound around him, so he was a little flustered. Anzhe waved his wings and wanted to fly high in the sky. He hoped that he could see the situation in the forest clearly, but when he flew high in the sky and looked down, there was nothing but purple smoke. Damn it, if I hadn't been careless just now, I wouldn't have separated from my classmates. What was that thing just now? Why did it suddenly appear and separate them one by one? If I can't find them now, it's dangerous. Anzhe felt that it was his own responsibility, and he didn't do a good job, which caused them to separate now. Friends, I believe you can do it, because with your current strength, as long as you don't fight alone, at least 3 or 2 people, 4 or 5 people are still very sure that one can win. Come on, you must wait until I come over. Anzhe was flying in the air, not minding that his career would be in the sight of villains. He felt that the most urgent thing to do now is to find his companion as soon as possible. Anzhe, where are you? Yaoyorozu Momo was lucky to be parted with Ashido Mina and Jiro Kyoka this time. They have been looking for Anzhe's whereabouts, but because they can't see the surroundings clearly, they can only find out by calling. Attract Anzhe's attention. You said if we continue to shout like this, will we recruit people from Mengmeng? If we recruit a eject, very powerful person, can we win with the 3 of us? Ashido Mina seems to be a little concerned about himself this time. She has no confidence. Her face is full of sad expressions. She doesn't know what will happen next. She is a little scared. Is it possible that her professional hero's road has not started yet? Is she going to die here? Don't worry, if we keep shouting, Anzhe will definitely hear it. By then, as long as he comes over, we will be able to go out. If he doesn't come, we will successfully recruit people from the League of Villains. If we come over, we will try to avoid them as much as possible and don't have a direct confrontation with them. Yaoyorozu Momo has already thought up the battle plan in his heart. After all, she is a thoughtful person. In fact, now is the same as going to the battlefield. She must be fully prepared. I really don't know what's going on with them. Shoto Todoroki was worried about them at the other end of the forest. Shoto Todoroki and Bakugo Katsuki got together. Will the two people with completely different quirks have sparks here? Or fight because of disagreement? With Anzhe's current strength, there is no problem at all, but I am worried about the other classmates. But the two of us are definitely fine. As long as the League of Villains dare to show up, I will definitely beat them down. Bakugo Katsuki. Also, people who haven't seen the League of Villains are already gearing up and really want to make a move. Shoto Todoroki saw Bakugo Katsuki like this and shook his head helplessly. Shoto Todoroki and Bakugo Katsuki were walking in the forest. They seemed to hear a voice nearby, so they ran over quickly, but when they arrived, there was no one there. They felt like they were fooled. Who? Shoto Todoroki sensed that there were people around them vigilantly, so he immediately entered the security equipment, and the two of them stood back to back, always on guard. Not bad, you two are just little boys, and you can actually detect my existence. It seems that your teacher taught you well. I really don't want to kill you like this. Why don't you? How about taking refuge in our alliance? Spinner clapped his hands and walked out of the dark place with a smile on his face, but this smile did not hit the bottom of the eye, but it gave people a creepy feeling and made people shudder. Since we can come to the Hero's Academy, we must want to become professional heroes. How can we join forces with you people? We have 2 people now, and you only have 1 person who wants to kill us. You are really boasting. Shoto Todoroki was very disdainful. He would never be with such a person. Since we were able to come here, we must have made sufficient preparations. Do you think I don't know you? I know your abilities clearly. Even if you are 2 people, I am better than you in combat. You have a lot more experience. Do you think the 2 of you have a chance of winning? Spinner smiled, feeling that he heard a ridiculous joke. He didn't take the 2 of them seriously at all, and was very confident. 217 League of Villains Strikes 11. Please subscribe. Even if you know our abilities, so what? How do you know that we have not improved during this time? I can tell you that there is a price to pay for underestimating us. Every student here is better than you. To be honest, you are just some low-level bastards, and now this world still needs to be guarded by professional heroes. It is completely impossible for you to provoke or want to defeat professional heroes. Quote. Shoto Todoroki seems to be very determined to become a professional hero. He should have a deep understanding of professional heroes. He also really wants to serve people and protect himself. People. You don't even pay attention to me. Don't you know that I am the most powerful person in the school? Although I may not be able to beat Anzhe now, but I believe that in the near future. He must not be my opponent. I will become the number one among professional heroes. Bakugo Katsuki also expressed his ambition, without any fear on his face. After all, when his ability was awakened, he has always been the best among his peers, and he is also a person who cannot admit defeat. He hopes to be the number one forever. What you said is really ridiculous. Don't you think that only Hero S is really that great? In fact, it is not the biggest damage or disaster that may happen in other places sometimes. Professional Hero S is not at all. If you can't do well, you can't protect us, why do we come here? We just want to see the powerlessness of professional Hero S. Little demons, let the world see them clearly. They can't protect them at all. This world still the strong are respected. After hearing what the two of them said, Spinner gradually stopped laughing and showed a mocking expression instead. He doesn't like professional Hero S at all. Although he has always wanted to become a professional Hero S, but when his parents were hurt by those bad guys, the professional Hero S did not appear before them in time, so he wants to take revenge on the professional Hero S. Professional Hero S, it is clearly said that everyone can do it, why didn't they arrive at the beginning? Spinner didn't want to continue talking like this anymore. He took the lead. There were many weapons on his back, his clothes had a very big mouth, and there were all kinds of iron weapons in his pockets. Shoto Todoroki and Bakugo Katsuki originally thought that his ability should be to increase force when using weapons or something, but they didn't expect that he would combine these weapons into one and become a huge sword. Without hesitation, Spinner took the sword in his hand and slashed at the two of them. Bakugo Katsuki and Shoto Todoroki jumped and quickly dodged. The two of them did not sit still, but chose to fight back. They quickly divided their troops into two groups, one attacking from the right and the other from the left. Spinner is also a person who does all kinds of bad things, so he doesn't pay much attention to these things, he just backs up, and Shoto Todoroki and Bakugo Katsuki almost collide. Shoto Todoroki turned quickly, and sent some ice cubes with his right hand, flying towards Spinner, but they were all cut by Spinner's sword. Spinner quickly swung his sword at them, and Shoto Todoroki had been doing water force to block some damage for them. After Bakugo Katsuki saw the timing, he jumped off the ice wall, and then used the explosion in his hand to push Spinner back, but Spinner was not afraid at all, and jumped to the side of the tree. He took his own sword and slashed at Bakugo Katsuki. Bakugo Katsuki stepped back quickly, and the two of them were in front of each other, and no one would let the other go. 0. Seeking flowers. Shoto Todoroki can be said to have both defense and attack. He was full of fire on one side and ice on the other. He put his hands on the ground to wash, and then froze Spinner's feet, but Spinner actually used his own weapon. It stopped in midair, but it didn't succeed. Shoto Todoroki threw another ball of fire, but was still dodged by Spinner. Bakugo Katsuki didn't let Spinner have a chance to rest. He quickly attacked Spinner again, but inside, he kicked it open. Bakugo Katsuki slammed into a nearby tree heavily, and he groaned. Shoto Todoroki was concerned about Bakugo Katsuki's injury, so Shoto Todoroki was distracted for a while, and Spinner relied on his distraction to he also hit a nearby tree. Shoto Todoroki and Bakugo Katsuki are not at the upper hand against Spinner now, and they are even at a disadvantage. Shoto Todoroki and Bakugo Katsuki were just punched and kicked by Spinner, and they already vomited a mouthful of blood. The two looked at Spina angrily, but Spina laughed out loud as if pleased by their eyes. I told you a long time ago that the two of you are not my opponents, and you just didn't listen. Now it's healed, and you burned yourself seriously. Spinner laughed. 218 League of Villains Strikes 12. Please subscribe. TCH, it's just that the two of us weren't serious just now. If we get serious now, I believe you won't even have a chance to fight back. The cooperation between us is not something you can just say no to. Bakugo Katsuki from the ground he stood up, touched the corner of his mouth, and showed a disdainful expression. We were just releasing water just now, and we will not release water in the future. We will take this battle seriously. I believe you will not go to such a point of view in a while. Of course, if you ask for mercy, we can also release it now. But, as long as you obediently go back with us. 507. Shoto Todoroki also stood up, his left side was frozen with ice, his right side was burning with fire. This is simply the funniest joke I've heard this year. I didn't expect that the two defeated generals would actually say they want to beat me. You couldn't beat me the first time, but the second time and the third time, you will still can't beat me. Spinner laughed out loud at what they were saying, put his hands on his face, and nearly laughed him off, and he was right, it did look like a joke, because they had already lost to him for the first time, but in the end they said that he had no chance to fight back. Isn't this a joke? Then try it. Shoto Todoroki took the lead in attacking. He raised his right hand to hit Spinner. Spinner easily dodged it without any pressure. Bakugo Katsuki took the opportunity to attack from the right, but Spinner his reflexes are indeed very good, she just dodged Bakugo Katsuki's attack with a slight flash to the left, and then he quickly backed up, using his own skills, and slashed at Bakugo Katsuki and Shoto Todoroki. Bakugo Katsuki and Shoto Todoroki also became serious, so this time Spinner's attack did not cause any harm to them, they had already dodged, they did not stop, but launched another attack. Shoto Todoroki stepped aside using the tree to help himself, he quickly transformed some ice cones with ice, and he attacked Spinner with these ice cones. Spinner chopped off the ice cones with the weapon in his hand, and then he quickly used the weapon in his hand to attack Shoto Todoroki, but Shoto Todoroki dodged to the right with the power of ice. Shoto Todoroki and Bakugo Katsuki have the feeling of winning for Spinner. They must win so that they can move on. If they fail here, their hero's road will be ruined. That's all for now. At the same time, it can also be said that the two of them have regarded Spinner as the first villains on their hero's road. If they can't even beat the first villains, how can they go to the next one? What about completing more difficult tasks? So this time the two of them must win, and they must not lose. Shoto Todoroki covers Bakugo Katsuki, because if Bakugo Katsuki performs a particularly powerful special move, if Shoto Todoroki does not cover Bakugo Katsuki, Spinner detects it, then Bakugo Katsuki has no way to launch the special move. It takes a while to store power to activate the special move, so during this time, Shoto Todoroki has to stop Spinner. I have been fighting for so many years at least. Do you think I can't see that he is storing energy? Do you think I will let him succeed? Let you use this trick to defeat me. But you don't really think it's just a small nirvana that can defeat me, then you are too naive. Spinner had already noticed Bakugo when Shoto Todoroki came to stop him. The reason why Katsuki didn't come up to attack was because he needed to store energy to launch his special attack. Spinner smiled disdainfully. Can a nirvana make it easily defeated? Shoto Todoroki didn't have time to continue talking nonsense with Spinner. He kept attacking, hoping that Spinner would turn his eyes to him, and give Bakugo Katsuki enough time to store energy. Spinner has been trying to bypass Shoto Todoroki to defeat Bakugo Katsuki directly, but Shoto Todoroki has been entangled with him like a difficult snake, so that Spinner has no chance to get close to Bakugo Katsuki. Because of Shoto Todoroki's difficulty, Spinner gradually became irritable. 0.3 The attacks he launched were constantly accelerating and becoming more and more violent. This made Shoto Todoroki a little bit overwhelmed. How can he fight alone? Such a ferocious opponent is indeed a little difficult, but now he is not allowed to think too much, nor is he allowed to rest. Spinner has no time to rest, and keeps attacking Shoto Todoroki. The local government can quickly solve Shoto Todoroki, so that he can attack Bakugo Katsuki again, but Shoto Todoroki is more difficult than he imagined. Shoto Todoroki didn't give him any chance to attack Bakugo Katsuki. 219 League of Villains Strikes 13. Please subscribe. Shoto Todoroki dragged on for another 3 minutes or so. Bakugo Katsuki's nirvana was finally ready, and Shoto Todoroki quickly hid aside after receiving Bakugo Katsuki's signal. Bakugo Katsuki quickly attacked Spinner. Spina might have been a little flustered, so he froze in place for a while. Bakugo Katsuki used this moment to attack Spinner with the huge blasting power in his hand. With a bang, a large piece of land behind Spinner was instantly reduced to ashes. After Bakugo Katsuki stopped, she breathed a sigh of relief, and she began to pant heavily, hoping that the nirvana that he had stored energy for so long would be useful. Shoto Todoroki has been hanging in his mind. He doesn't know what will happen next, and he doesn't know if this attack will work. If it doesn't work, will I have a better ability to fight against him next time? If not, are they going to lose their first battle? Did it succeed? Both Bakugo Katsuki and Shoto Todoroki were very uncertain. After the smoke cleared, they walked up to Spinner slowly, wanting to see whether Spinner had failed, but when they saw that Spinner had stopped moving, they all breathed a sigh of relief and prepared to leave. Stop, do I let you go? Do you want to leave after making me like this? Spinner's voice still rang out, which made Shoto Todoroki and Bakugo Katsuki a little embarrassed. Accepted. They turned around stiffly, and they were a little puzzled when they saw that Spinner was still in place without moving. But then their doubts were shattered. Spinner slowly stood up from the ground holding his sword. If he hadn't blocked his weapon in front of him in time just now, he might really have to turn to ashes due to high temperature. After Spinner stood up, he slowly raised his head, looked at Shoto Todoroki and Bakugo Katsuki, and then showed a crazy smile. Shoto Todoroki and Bakugo Katsuki felt very creepy. They didn't know that Spinner had become what's so ridiculous about it now. I haven't announced the end of the battle yet. Do you think you can get away? Let me tell you, either my king or you will die next. It was just my carelessness that gave you an opportunity, but in the next it is absolutely impossible for me to give you any more chances. Spina raised the big sword in his hand high, and then the big sword suddenly became bigger again, and some small weapons flew from nowhere. All are attached to the top of the big sword. Go to hell, Spinner yelled, and slashed at Shoto Todoroki and Bakugo Katsuki with his greatsword. Bakugo Katsuki and Shoto Todoroki spent a lot of effort to escape from his grasp, but Spinner kept attacking them mindlessly as if he had lost his mind, but he didn't see them hacking all the time. It is the tree beside them. Bakugo Katsuki and Shoto Todoroki wanted to leave like this, but Spinner and the others really wanted to defeat them, so they stayed in the end, and they planned to leave after defeating Spinner. They slowly circled behind Spinner when he was attacking, ready to annihilate him in one fell swoop, but Spinner didn't completely lose his mind, so when he felt something behind him, he turned his head quickly, suddenly saw Shoto Todoroki and Bakugo Katsuki. His face became very ugly. I'm going to kill you. You're the ones who made me what I am now. I'm going to make your life worse than death. I'm going to chop all of you into minced meat. Spinner's current appearance is indeed ugly. Her hair was all afro, her face was as black as charcoal, and his clothes were in tatters, but there was no way around it. It was normal to look like this during a fight. Both Shoto Todoroki and Bakugo Katsuki looked very relaxed in the next meeting, because Spinner was too angry, so his movements were very clear. Bakugo Katsuki and Hongjiao 440 Dong escaped without any difficulty. You can also take the opportunity to attack Spinner. Spinner is like this, how can he win against us? Let's end this battle quickly, and we have to meet up with other people. Shoto Todoroki was anxious to meet up with his classmates, so he was ready to end the battle. Shoto Todoroki and Bakugo Katsuki launched an attack together, and all the strong attacks hit Spinner's body. Spinner had no ability to resist, and Spinner failed like this. Shoto Todoroki and Bakugo Katsuki left after reconfirming. They couldn't stay here for a minute. They were afraid that Spinner woke up again and clamored to fight them, which would delay them a lot of time. He is so persevering, he can still stand up and fight with us again with the Nirvana you just did. Shoto Todoroki actually admired Spinner, but bad is always bad. 220 League of Villains Strikes 14. Please subscribe. Anzhe has been flying in midair for half a day, hoping to see the silhouettes of his classmates, but no matter how long he has been flying, he just can't see them. He feels that this is not the way to go, so he landed on the ground and started to walk forward. He hoped that he could sense the places of his classmates through his keen sense of smell and keen sense of hearing. Yaoyorozu Momo and Ashido Mina Jiro Kyoka walked for a long time, but they still didn't see their companions. They chatted with some insults, and they were going to take a rest. After all, they were very tired after walking such a long distance. When will we be able to see our companions? It's not an option if we continue to do this. We must think of a perfect plan. Otherwise, what should we do if we encounter villains soon? This time is very dangerous characters. Jiro Kyoka was also thinking about different things when she was resting. She was thinking about what to do next. You are right. We have to think about what we should do if we meet someone who is stronger than us. Now that everyone is tired, let's rest first and relax a little. I will help you watching. If there is any suspicious situation, I will report to you in time. You can rest assured, I have everything here. Yaoyorozu Momo is really very reliable. At this time, he did not rest first. Instead, let her friends and partners rest first. After all, after walking such a long distance, she is not the only one walking, all of them are walking. Jiro Kyoka and Ashido Mina soon relaxed after hearing Yaoyorozu Momo's words, and they began to rest on their own, because they felt that as long as Yaoyorozu Momo was around, everything would be fine. Yaoyorozu Momo gave a the intimate feeling makes people unconsciously want to believe her and trust her. Yaoyorozu Momo is actually very sleepy now, but she can't fall asleep now. If he said the past, then the companions will be in danger, and she will also be in danger, so she is holding on to her upper and lower eyelids. Be sure to stand back well. The three of them just rested for a while, and soon there was danger. Yaoyorozu Momo heard the sound from a long distance, and immediately became alert. Yaoyorozu Momo called Ashido Mina and Jiro Kyoka. I feel that villains is approaching us. Get up quickly. Don't rest. We are going to fight, but then we must escape as soon as we can, and don't start a direct confrontation with villains, otherwise I'm afraid the three of us might not be able to resist. Yaoyorozu Momo really had a very clear mind. At this time he didn't choose to fight, but chose to escape, and the three of them hid in the grass beside them, hoping not to cause trouble. Other people's attention. Twice hummed a song and walked over. He stopped where Yaoyorozu Momo and the three of them were. This made the hearts of the three girls tense immediately. They were very afraid that they would be discovered. Had to intervene in the fight. Twice just paused here for a while and then left. They didn't stay here for too long. Yaoyorozu Momo, Ashido Mina and Jiro Kyoka breathed a sigh of relief for a while. They walked out slowly. Just when they were about to leave quickly, there was someone behind them. There was a terrible sound. Three lovely little girls, where are you going? Aren't you looking for me again? Why are we leaving before we have fought? This is very impolite, and impolite girls will be punished. Punishment. Twice was laughing, but it didn't give people a funny feeling, but made people shudder. What do you think? Yaoyorozu Momo chose to be the first to stand up. After all, even if she doesn't stand up, someone else needs to stand up, so why can't this person be her? The other two people, she thinks it might not be going well, so I took the first step to stand up. Facing you three lovely little girls, what can I do? If the relationship between us is not antagonistic, I hope the kings that we can communicate further, but now our boss has orders. I have to take a few of you back, so I have to fight with you, but you three little girls will definitely not be able to beat me, so it is better to use the current profile picture to save some flesh and blood for a while. Bitter, make my skin rough or bleed a little. Twice looked down on the three girls in front of them very much, so there were some situations when they were talking. The three girls were not vegetarian. After hearing such words, immediately became a little angry, ready to fight the villains in front of him. 221 League of Villains Strikes 15. Please subscribe. Yaoyorozu Momo led the fight from behind, Ashido Mina rushed up front, and then Jiro Kyoka came to assist Ashido Mina. Ashido Mina took the lead in attacking. She used some sulfuric acid secreted in her body to attack Twice, but Twice's ability is twice as strong. He can turn himself into two people, and the two people have the same ability. So the three little girls have to face two villains, which can be said to be the hardest thing they have done in a long time. You must pay attention to his ability to transform into two identical people. If so, we have to deal with both of them at the same time and find out which one is his clone. Yaoyorozu Momo looked at Twice. In fact, what kind of ability is not terrible, but like this can transform another person, and the 587 strength of the two of them is still the same. It is a bit troublesome. After all, it is not good to deal with two people at the same time easy. Don't worry, no matter how many people he has, I will beat him to pieces. Ashido Mina was actually very nervous in his heart. His palms were covered with sweat, but in order to ease the atmosphere, he had no choice but to be brave. Jiro Kyoka stood behind Ashido Mina, observing the current situation all the time. She plugged her earphones into the ground, and slowly sent out sound waves to the ground. I hope I can see through the interference that it is the clone. But Twice is also a battle-tested person. He has expected this kind of skill a long time ago, and they are very familiar with the ability of every student in the academy. After all, the TV station has already used their ability. All of them were broadcasted on TV, and now people all over the world probably know their abilities. After Twice rotated at high speed, it immediately transformed into another person, making it impossible to see which one is the clone and which one is the real one. Yaoyorozu Momo stood behind the two of them. It can be said that the last one has been observing the current situation. She frowned suddenly. She felt that with the strength of the three of them, there was no way to defeat the villains in front of her. So the best thing to do now is to retreat quickly. I'll give the three of you one last chance. Hurry up and follow me, otherwise, the only thing that will suffer is that you will bleed a little at the end, or die, and I don't care about it. But you'd better listen to me, a word of persuasion, otherwise, if we start fighting in a short while, I won't take pity on you, and I won't be merciful. Twice frowned, babbled, and said his words. His mouth was full of regrets, as if he would definitely like winning. You are dreaming. Even if we are beaten to death by you, we will not go with you, let alone join you. You are bad and we are good. You do all kinds of bad things just to rule the world, but we don't. Ajdh, same, we need to protect the world from your harm. Yaoyorozu Momo immediately stood up when she heard Twice say this. She didn't want to hear such a voice. Each of them made their own efforts. Those who have just been admitted here hope to become professional heroes to protect everyone. In the end, their efforts are in vain in the eyes of others. Is it true that professional heroes can only be done by boys? Obviously, in the direct heroes rankings, there are also girls in the top few. Why do we just must be discriminated against? Yaoyorozu Momo's eyes were very firm. She felt that this battle was unavoidable and she had to fight. Even if she died in the end, at least she would not regret it, at least she had worked hard. My friend, I know that I may be very irresponsible to you too by making such a decision, but I don't want to run away now. I want to fight him in a fair manner. If you want to leave, I will definitely not just stop you, just go. Yaoyorozu Momo looked at Ashido Mina and Jiro Kyoka and said what was in his heart. What are you talking about? How could we leave you here alone? Even if you didn't say that, we would have wanted to do this a long time ago. Don't worry, let's do it. The two of us will be together, protect you from behind. Ashido Mina compared her heart to Yaoyorozu Momo, reassuring Yaoyorozu Momo that everything is with them. Yaoyorozu Momo turned her head and stood in front of the two of them after hearing the words that warmed her heart. Twice, we will not run away, we will confront you in a fair and honest manner, but I hope you will also use up your rights and don't despise us. Yaoyorozu Momo is serious. Yes, I appreciate your current mood, but I advise you to think clearly. After all, this kind of thing is not a joke, not to mention fighting with me, but you still want me to be serious. Don't you think the three of you can a little girl really beat me? Twice was still very disdainful, which made Yaoyorozu Momo frown again. 222 League of Villains Strikes 16. Please subscribe. Yaoyorozu Momo didn't hesitate any longer. She launched an attack directly, and quickly created some daggers to stab Twice. But Twice dodged it all at once, and both of them reacted very quickly. There was no time for Yaoyorozu Momo to react, and they immediately attacked Yaoyorozu Momo. Fortunately, Yaoyorozu Momo dodged quickly, and Ashido Mina saw that Yaoyorozu Momo was in danger, immediately stepped forward to help, but was blocked by the clone. Jiro Kyoka also wants to go up to help, but she doesn't know which one to help. Yaoyorozu Momo is in a very dangerous situation now, but Ashido Mina is also in a very dangerous situation. Who will she help? She stands there and hesitates. Ju has been looking at the two people. Yaoyorozu Momo did not continue to hesitate, and immediately used the things he made to fight Twice, but Twice's reaction speed was very fast, and he missed a single hit. It's like taking a walk, it's very relaxed, but Yaoyorozu Momo's physical strength has begun to be a little unclear. After all, she is making things and attacking at the same time, and her physical strength is very large. This is just the beginning. You are exhausted and want to hit me. I advise you to give up. Twice saw that Yaoyorozu Momo was already panting heavily, and shook his head. Sure enough, he was still not qualified, so he started persuade Yaoyorozu Momo to let Yaoyorozu Momo give up, but Yaoyorozu Momo does not intend to give up. She has been trying her best to attack Twice. Twice was really moved by Yaoyorozu Momo this time. He felt that if he didn't take it seriously, he would disrespect Yaoyorozu Momo, so he also started to take it seriously. He stood still, and when Yaoyorozu Momo came over for the first time, he directly grabbed Yaoyorozu Momo's wrist and pushed back. Yaoyorozu Momo hit the tree behind him. The tree was so hard that Yaoyorozu Momo cried out in pain, but instead of giving up because of this, he worked harder. Twice may be out of respect for Yaoyorozu Momo, now every shot is very ruthless. He wants to make Yaoyorozu Momo retreat, but this is only a small part. Most of him still want to tease Yaoyorozu Momo. He thinks Yaoyorozu Momo's current appearance is very ridiculous, which makes him playful. Seeing that Yaoyorozu Momo has been injured many times, Ashido Mina couldn't help rushing to help him, but the avatar kept blocking her and fighting with her, making her unable to concentrate on helping Yaoyorozu Momo, so she shouted, Jiro Kyoka, go help Yaoyorozu Momo. When Jiro Kyoka was still struggling, she heard Ashido Mina's voice. She didn't hesitate anymore, and immediately rushed to help Yaoyorozu Momo. She used her earphones to emit a huge sound wave to interfere with Twice. Twice stopped after feeling the sound wave, turned around and looked at Jiro Kyoka. Jiro Kyoka didn't have the slightest fear, just looked at him like this. Yaoyorozu Momo saw the opportunity came, and immediately attacked Twice with his own weapon. But Twice is also paying attention to Yaoyorozu Momo all the time. When Yaoyorozu Momo got up and stabbed him with a sword, he had already avoided it and kicked Yaoyorozu Momo in the stomach. Yaoyorozu Momo spit out a mouthful of water, very pain. Jiro Kyoka was about to help Yaoyorozu Momo up, but was blocked by Twice, and Twice also slapped her. Jiro Kyoka did not suffer too much damage because he hid in time. 0. Seeking flowers. Yaoyorozu Momo stumbled up from the ground, still did not give up, and wanted to continue reading, but Ashido Mina couldn't stand it at this time. She didn't want to hurt Yaoyorozu Momo again, so she used her fast. The speed came to Yaoyorozu Fangbai's side. I know you must be unconvinced now, but we have to retreat now, otherwise the three of us will have to confess to being here. Even if you are dead, are you willing to see the two of us go with you? Come with me. I don't want to go on like this anymore. We have to leave quickly and meet Anzhe and the others. After Ashido Mina helped Yaoyorozu Momo up, he told Yaoyorozu Momo what he was thinking, and Yaoyorozu Momo listened sighing. He decided to teach the lesson, and what he said was not wrong, so he prepared to evacuate with Ashido Mina. Jiro Kyoka also stood up after feeling the eyes of Ashido Mina and Yaoyorozu Momo, and retreated to their side. Didn't you always want to decide the outcome with me? Why are you leaving now? This is not okay. I haven't fought enough. Don't you want to defeat me? How can you leave if you haven't defeated me yet? Do you think I'll let you leave? Of course it's impossible. Twice stood in front of the three of them, not about to let them leave. Yaoyorozu Momo glanced around. There was no one else except the three of them and the two people in front of them, and the place was very wide with many trees. Yaoyorozu Momo touched Ashido Mina on the back of Ashido Mina, and Ashido Mina's puzzled eyes fell on Yaoyorozu Momo's face. 223 League of Villains Strikes 17. Please subscribe. Do you see those trees next to us? We can escape through these trees, and you will throw your own sulfuric acid on the faces of both of them, blinding them briefly. The three of us took advantage of this time to run away quickly, but there was no need to run too far, just find a bush and squat down. Yaoyorozu Momo spoke only in a voice that the three of them could hear. Ashido Mina listened to what Yaoyorozu Momo said and nodded to show that she understood, but Jiro Kyoka said nothing. Why don't you talk anymore? Didn't you three insist on fighting me against 783, just now? Now you are leaving. This is really annoying. It hasn't finished yet. I won't allow you. You just need to take one more step, and I guarantee that your lives will be given here. Twice is very angry now. He thought he could have a good time, but he didn't expect the three of them to give up and prepare to escape. This is absolutely not allowed by him. He hasn't played enough. How could he let the three of them leave so easily? When did we say we were going to leave? I just boasted that if I beat you, I would definitely beat you. How could I leave now? If that's the case, then the three of us are really dishonest. Yaoyorozu Momo's voice is very calm now, not very eager, or still has the kind of anger just now. Just remember, I will never allow the three of you to leave, as long as you take another step forward, or get out of my sight. I will kill the three of you immediately. After all, I already have a lot of lives in my hands. Yes, more of you three is not too much, less of you three is not too much. Twice got a satisfactory answer and smiled, but the bloodthirsty expression on his face made the three girls shudder. Ashido Mina, it's time to do it now. Yaoyorozu Momo's time has come. He quickly looked at Ashido Mina next to him, and asked Ashido Mina to do it quickly, otherwise this opportunity may not be so easy now. After receiving the signal from Yaoyorozu Momo, he immediately poured the sulfuric acid that he had been soaking for a long time on the two of them. Because Twice and the others didn't pay attention, the eyes of the two of them were very stinging, and they made a barking sound. Seeing that they had succeeded, Yaoyorozu Momo quickly ordered the two people next to him to leave. Ashido Mina dragged Yaoyorozu Momo, and followed closely beside the two of them. The three of them kept running forward, because they knew that such a method would not last long. After the three of them ran to a certain distance, they quickly squatted down. Down in a bush. Ah, you three bastards dare to bully me. Look, I'll kill you three when I catch you. Twice hurriedly chased in this direction, but when he came over, it was already gone. Seeing the three figures he was familiar with, he walked straight forward. This time he really left. He was already dazzled by anger, and he didn't stay here any longer. Great, he left at last. Yaoyorozu Momo, are you alright? I see you are seriously injured. Ashido Mina breathed a sigh of relief when she saw that Yaoyorozu Momo on her back had already when she was about to faint. She immediately became nervous again. She didn't know why Yaoyorozu Momo was injured so badly. Could it be that the villains just now is so powerful? Even Yaoyorozu Momo was injured so badly by him. Fortunately the three of them ran fast, otherwise their master would not be dead now. These are minor injuries, not life-threatening. After hearing Ashido Mina's exclamation, he immediately helped Yaoyorozu Momo to observe and found that Yaoyorozu Momo's body was covered with skin trauma, but bleeding was excessive, and it was not no big deal. I was scared to death. I thought Yaoyorozu Momo was hurt very badly. Ashido Mina also breathed a sigh of relief after hearing what Jiro Kyoka said. She felt so distressed when she saw Yaoyorozu Momo just now. After Yaoyorozu Momo opened his eyes and looked around, he felt that there was no problem, so he poked Ashido Mina's hand. What happened to 5.8? Ashido Mina looked at Yaoyorozu Momo quickly after feeling Yaoyorozu Momo's touch. Let's transfer the three of us before Twice comes back. We must find Anzhe and the others quickly. Yaoyorozu Momo smiled, and Ashido Lord nodded. Ashido Mina carried Yaoyorozu Momo on her body, and then let Jiro Kyoka lead the way, because Jiro Kyoka can clearly feel the surrounding sounds through his own ability, so it is absolutely no problem to follow her. 224 Muscle Villain S1 Please subscribe. Yaoyorozu Momo, Ashido Mina and Jiro Kyoka walked forward for a while, and heard all kinds of screams, but the three of them couldn't stop, and they couldn't say to help, because now the three of them were more or less dead. Some injuries, if I help in the past, I guess I can only help. How long will it take for us to find Anzhe and the others? We are too tired, let's take a rest. Ashido Mina, because she needs to carry Yaoyorozu Momo on her back, so she is really tired as a girl now, Jiro Kyoka thought for a while, then let her rest now. Ashido Mina carefully placed Yaoyorozu Momo on the ground, and immediately sat down on the side. He really didn't want to move anymore. After walking such a long way, although he had heard the voices of many companions 09 by the side of the road, but they cannot protect themselves now, and there is no way to find them in the past. They must find Anzhe and the others, so as to ensure their own safety. Although I have walked such a short distance, I am almost exhausted now. I have wasted a lot of energy just now, and now I have to carry Yaoyorozu Momo on my back. I am really exhausted. Ashido Mina used herself. She fanned herself with her hand. She was so hot now, and then she complained casually about the basis, but Yaoyorozu Momo felt a little uncomfortable in her heart. I'm really sorry, it's all because of me, so the three of us can only stop here and can't move on. You two don't need to worry about me. Go ahead, I will follow you in a while. Yes. Yaoyorozu Momo was silent for a while, and then apologized to Ashido Mina. Ashido Mina was confused. Did she say something wrong again, which caused Yaoyorozu Momo to apologize to them? Yaoyorozu Momo must have misunderstood again. No, that's not what I meant. I didn't say you were in particular trouble. I just felt tired, so I complained casually. Don't take it to heart. I didn't say that and you just continue to follow us. I will protect you. Ashido Mina hurriedly waved her hands. She didn't want Yaoyorozu Momo to never return to her. What happened just now has happened once, and now it can't happen again, especially at this critical moment. If there are internal problems among the three of them, then the master must be self-defeating. If it weren't for the injuries I have now, I wouldn't need you to carry me and make you so tired. It's all my fault. I'm very sorry. After hearing Ashido Mina's words, Yaoyorozu Momo still it was very uncomfortable, and he felt that all of this was his fault. If he hadn't been so willful and hadn't demanded a confrontation with Twice, this series of things wouldn't have happened at all. Yaoyorozu Momo, don't think too much, it has nothing to do with you. Ashido Mina is just tired. Let's take a break now. We have to continue on our way later. Don't think too much, it has nothing to do with you. No. Jiro Kyoka shook his head helplessly listening to it, and now Yaoyorozu Momo could not misunderstand Ashido Mina, so she also spoke. Where is who? Suddenly a familiar voice sounded in my ears. Bakugo Katsuki and Shoto Todoroki came out from behind the tree. Their faces were still full of defense, but after seeing Yaoyorozu Momo and the three of them not so defensive anymore. We finally found the two of you. You don't know that we met a very powerful person just now. The three of us couldn't beat him, so we had to escape. Fortunately, we met the two of you. Now the three of us, but it's all up to you two. Ashido Mina breathed a sigh of relief after seeing the two very reliable people, and finally no longer need to worry about it. It's definitely okay to have the two of them, they are so powerful. What happened to you 013? Why is Yaoyorozu Momo injured so badly? When Shoto Todoroki saw Yaoyorozu Momo lying on the ground without saying hello to them, he looked at her body and found her body big and small. Chuan frowned with many injuries, and didn't want his companions to be hurt. Don't mention it, the three of us just met a villain who can clone himself, and he is already very powerful. In the end, there are two identical people. The three of us really can't beat them, so we suffered a little bit. Fortunately, we escaped. Ashido Mina told all the things the three of them experienced just now. Thinking about it now, I still feel a little scared. Does your injury matter? If the pain is unbearable, tell me, and I will help you find someone who can heal you. Shoto Todoroki squatted beside Yaoyorozu Momo. Ask Yaoyorozu Momo. 225 Muscle Villain S2 Please subscribe. I'm fine, let's hurry up and find Anzhe. Yaoyorozu Momo shook his head. Now is not the time to rest, he has already joined the two of them, and then he has to find Anzhe. Anzhe now there is only one person, and if something happens, it will be dangerous. I understand what you said, but how can we hurry now with you like this? You should rest here for a while. I believe that Anzhe's skills are very good, he will definitely not encounter any danger. Even if he does when we get to the villains, we will definitely quit the party, so we must take care of ourselves so that we can go to him. Shoto Todoroki comforted Yaoyorozu Momo, although he also wants to go to Anzhe now, but now is not the time. Yaoyorozu Momo has no way to act now, so let's take a rest here for the sake of not being too conspicuous. Bakugo Katsuki also agreed with Shoto Todoroki's words very much. People like him usually don't like to express their own opinions, but they have made their own remarks at this time, and they must agree with them. Okay. Yaoyorozu Momo saw that the two boys were convincing herself, and she couldn't say anything more. After all, she was injured and was a burden. There was no way to be like them. Shoto Todoroki and Bakugo Katsuki are standing next to the three girls, and the three girls are resting next to each other, and the two boys are standing next to them to stand guard for them. If there is a villains coming soon, they can be notified directly. 3. Really, It's been so long, why can't you see anyone? It shouldn't be, even if you can't see people, you can still hear a little voice, right? We have so many students, people from the League of Villains, there must be a lot, it has been so long, it must have started, why is there no sound at all? Anzhe walked aimlessly in the forest, he didn't hear any sound during this time, especially no one was seen. I can no longer waste time here. If this continues, none of his companions will be able to find him. It will be very dangerous to walk here alone. Although he is now a professional hero, but he didn't know what the enemy's strength was like, if he couldn't beat him, he would suffer. Anzhe looked at the nearby mountain, and he felt that he had to stand on the highest place to see farther and wider, so he decided to go there. Playing with his own wings, the wings became very big after spreading, and the wings brought Anzhe to the mountain very quickly. The scenery above is very good, Anzhe can stretch as far as the eye can see, now there is no time for Anzhe to enjoy the scenery. Anzhe hastened to stare at the bottom, but no matter how he looks, the bottom is covered by a purple smoke, he can't see anything. Ah, help. While Anzhe was still observing, he suddenly heard the voice of a child calling for help. Anzhe knew who it was a professional hero, sleeping together in the forest, adopted child Guangtai. Anzhe hurriedly followed the sound to find the past, only to see Mingtai cornered by a muscular man. Mingtai is trembling all over now, but he didn't shed a single tear, even though he is so young, he doesn't allow himself to shed tears at all, he is a man. Guangtai, Anzhe yelled, attracting the eyes of two people. After seeing Anzhe, Guangtai immediately ran towards Anzhe. The muscular man also turned around slowly and looked at Anzhe. Anzhe looked very familiar, as if he had seen it somewhere before. How do I feel that I have seen you somewhere? The muscular man slowly approached Anzhe, wanting to see Anzhe's face more clearly. Looking vigilantly at the muscular man in front of him, the muscular man's body is very strong, he doesn't look very easy to deal with, and he doesn't know what his abilities are, so Anzhe is a little nervous now. I don't know where you met me, but I haven't seen you. You are such a big person, how can you bully children? Anzhe is now pretending to be calm, but it's just him. Zhao okay, he might still have a chance, but now he has to protect a small child, which will distract him and his combat effectiveness will decrease. Oh, I remembered. You were the person in the previous photo. By the way, you are the one I want to arrest. The muscular man didn't care what Anzhe was talking about. He suddenly realized that Anzhe was the boss who asked him to arrest him. People. After the muscular man figured it out, he wanted to get close to Anzhe, because in his opinion, someone as weak as Anzhe would definitely not be able to beat him, so he could take Anzhe away with just a light touch. Stop. What are you doing? Anzhe saw that the muscular man wanted to get closer to him, so he hurriedly yelled to stop. 226 Muscle Villain S3, please subscribe. I don't want to do anything, our boss asked me to take you back, so I want to take you back now, isn't that very clear? I said it just now, why don't you understand? You stupid. The muscular man really didn't understand, he had clearly explained it just now, why couldn't Anzhe understand it? He had to explain it again. I know what you mean, but don't you think it's disrespectful for you to take me away like this now? And you didn't answer my question just now, why are you bullying children? If you want to find me, you can come to me directly, why do you bully children? Anzhe frowned, he didn't expect the muscular man to be such a person. I'm not bullying the child, I just thought he was very funny, so I just teased him, now I don't want to talk to you so much anymore, let's fight quickly, I want to take you away directly. Muscle the man gradually became impatient and annoyed. He wanted to finish the task quickly so that he could go back. Since you know who I am, don't you know about me? Do you still think you can take me away so easily? Anzhe didn't know that he had been underestimated by others. Fighting against each other, just looking down on him like this really hurt his self-esteem. Although he is indeed not very powerful, he is still a professional hero, and he also defeated a hero, hunter before, but now he is so despised. The muscular man really didn't want to continue talking, he launched an attack directly, and his own strong strength hit Anzhe. Anzhe pushed Guangtai aside to resist the attack of the muscular man himself. The muscular man's attacks are the same as his own, they are very powerful, and people are scared when they look at AJCJ. Jay felt that his hands were about to be scrapped after his attack, which was really shocking. I didn't expect that even ordinary people would have great power. Anzhe felt that he could no longer sit still, he had to launch an attack, so he moved his wings without hesitation, wanting to fly into the air. Of course the muscular man knew he had this ability, so when Anzhe was about to fly into the sky when it was time, he walked towards Mingtai, and Anzhe hurried down. I think it's better for you not to use your wings, otherwise I don't know what I'll do to this guy. The muscular man was threatening, but his face was expressionless, as if the person who did that just now was not like him. Anzhe frowned, he had never seen anyone like this. This person is too unreasonable, how can children be involved in the duel between the two of them? But now Anzhe has no way to act according to his own wishes, so he has to protect the child and fight with the muscular man. The muscular man is very hard in the process. Every time Anzhe attacks Anzhe, he feels that it is overwhelming. It made Anzhe very painful, every time Anzhe wanted to use magic, the muscular man could always find a good time to interrupt him, which made Anzhe a little annoyed. If there is no way to activate his ability, then he will undoubtedly lose this battle, so he must find a breakthrough point to activate his ability, so that he can regain some opportunities. When the muscular man attacked again, Anzhe backed away from the side, and then quickly used a thunder dragon. The thunder dragon hit the muscular man's body, but it was like tickling. The muscular man was not affected at all, He attacked Anzhe again. This time the attack was very fast. He might want to knock Anzhe out this time, and carry Anzhe back directly, but Anzhe didn't intend to it ended like this. He quickly hid to the side and wanted to hide, and then launched attacks continuously. Even though Anzhe attacked the muscular man several times in a row, he still looked like a normal person. Although he might have suffered a little damage, the damage was not serious. This makes Anzhe not understand. Even if a powerful person attacks Anzhe several times like this, he will at least suffer a little damage. Why is the muscular man acting like a normal person? Could it be that he was born with a tool for fighting? You only know how to fight, but you don't know pain. Anzhe soon discovered that the muscular man was different. Every time the muscular man received an attack, the muscles on his body would change. Anzhe had a guess. Could this be the ability of the muscular man? Soon, Anzhe's guess has been confirmed. This is indeed the ability of the muscular man. The ability of the muscular man has increased dramatically. His own strength has increased many times, thus becoming very powerful. For a period of time, his resistance to fighting has also increased. Will improve a lot. 227 Muscle Villain S4 Please subscribe. Every time Anzhe launched an attack with the muscular man, he didn't know how to break the ability of the muscular man. Every time the muscular man hit him, it was very painful, which made Anzhe feel worse every time. Anzhe's hands are about to be fractured. If he receives a few critical blows like the muscular man, he may be destroyed, so Anzhe is basically dodging now, and there is no way to launch an attack. The muscular man didn't care about the current situation at all. He followed immediately. Anzhe was hiding to the side, and he followed again. The two of them were like a cat catching a mouse. Anzhe feels that he must calm down now and think carefully about how to find a breakthrough point. If he can't find a breakthrough point, then this battle will end in failure. It is difficult to protect themselves. Anzhe finally decided that no matter how hard he fights, his abilities are limited, and there will definitely be restrictions. As long as he can get out of that limit, then the accumulation of difficulties will definitely be abolished. Anzhe needs to launch several consecutive attacks, and the ability of these attacks does not need to be the most powerful and powerful. Anzhe also knew that he had to attack one place at the same time, so that it would be useful. Anzhe learned smart this time. He quickly walked to the side of Mingtai, hugged Mingtai, and then quickly waved his wings. Anzhe stopped his body in midair, and then put Mingtai on his back. I quickly launched one attack after another. The muscular man has been dodging below. He has no way to reach Anzhe, and there is a protective shield around Anzhe again, so now the muscular man can only passively bear the attack. 2J seems to have tried his best. He is like an engine, launching different attacks again and again. These abilities hit the ground, producing a lot of colors, which are so beautiful that Mingtai is dumbfounded. Up. The muscular man has been enduring these attacks. Although he grunted, it didn't seem to have caused him much harm. Anzhe frowned. Could it be that it was useless for him to do so? But Anzhe firmly believed in his own thoughts, so he has been launching endless attacks, hoping to have a little effect. Finally, under Anzhe's insistence, the muscular man finally loosened a bit. The muscular man's muscles began to increase dramatically, and he also became very huge, so Anzhe was a little surprised. Could it be that the sudden increase of muscles can make people so huge, like a giant? But this is nothing to Anzhe, because Anzhe has finally found a way to punish this. Every time Anzhe attacks the muscular man, he always attacks in one place repeatedly, and if the muscular man wants to attack Anzhe, he has to jump up. Every time he jumps, the mountains here are shaking. Anzhe, what kind of hero are you hiding in the sky? Come down and fight with me if you have the ability. You flap your wings like a coward in the sky. I look down on you. Maybe he was a little anxious. He started to scold Anzhe with some vulgar language, but Anzhe was not affected by her at all. After all, these few words he scolded were like scratching an itch for Anzhe, and it didn't help at all. The effect of a little bit. 0. Seeking flowers. Under the attack of Anzhe's unremitting efforts, the muscular man was finally defeated by Anzhe, and Anzhe also had a chance to come down. The first thing he did after he came down was to check whether the muscular man was really defeated by him. When he saw the muscle when the male didn't move, he knew he had won, and then Anzhe immediately lay down on the ground. This time he was really tired. Thank you. Niu walked up to Anzhe's side, and said thank you to Anzhe. Anzhe smiled. He thought that the Mingtai in front of him might not be so annoying. He himself I've been through a lot, that's why I hate professional heroes so much. Do you still hate professional heroes now? I know that sometimes direct heroes may not be perfect, but I believe that every professional hero is doing its best to protect people. Sometimes the result may be so unsatisfactory, but I believe that as long as our professional hero is here, you will not be hurt a little bit, but this process takes time. I am willing to give our professional hero in a little time, we will return you peace. Anzhe rubbed the head of Mingtai, and then said what she wanted to say to him before, because she thought the timing was wrong, so she didn't say it, but now that Anzhe has protected Kangta, saying this will convince Kangta even more. I'll think about it seriously, but I still want to thank you. Mingtai lowered her head, making it impossible to know what his expression was like now, but he still thanked Anzhe again. 228 Bakugo Katsuki is captured. Please subscribe. I seem to suddenly hear the voice of the male protagonist and the sound of fighting on the other side of the mountain. Jiro Kyoka has been paying attention to the surrounding environment, her ears are very sensitive, and she suddenly heard some noises, and the faint voice of the hero. He quickly told the people around him what he heard. If I'm really there, that would be great, let's meet him quickly. After hearing what Jiro Kyoka said, Ashido Mina was very excited. Can I finally meet the male lead? In this way a few people together will make her feel more at ease. Can you do it now? 010. If we go to the top of the mountain, the distance may be far away. We need someone to carry you. Who do you want to carry you? Shoto Todoroki. The first thing is to start ask Yaoyorozu Momo what he thinks. After all, if two boys come to chant Yaoyorozu Momo, it will not be good for Yaoyorozu Momo's innocence, so you have to ask Yaoyorozu Momo first, and then the two of them can take turns reciting Yaoyorozu Momo. If you let girls come chant, Yaoyorozu Momo said, this is really a bit slow. Well, it's all good. Now I can say that I am a burden between you. How dare I ask too many demands? You can do as you see. Yaoyorozu Momo smiled, feeling that Shoto Todoroki really cared about her at this time, as long as they are a few of them, and Yaoyorozu Momo is not left behind, Yaoyorozu Momo will be thankful. You don't need to discuss how to go, because you don't need to go. A discordant voice suddenly came from their side, which they had never heard before, so each of them immediately became vigilant. Shoto Todoroki is very vigilant now. They still have 3 girls here. If they really want to fight, it must be their disadvantage. Ha 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 ha. Little brother, don't be nervous, I just came to ask you for a person. As long as you are willing to give me the person obediently, then you will not be able to bear the pain of flesh and blood. Of course I have no intention, let's fight with you. The magician came out from the darkness of one side. There were several glass balls in his pocket, and he was holding a glass ball in his hand, making it impossible to guess what he wanted to do. What to say, let's fight. His body really doesn't look like a fighter. We don't have anyone you want here. Yaoyorozu Momo spoke at this time. Everyone present is their important partner, and of course it is impossible to hand over anyone. What can I say to the villains? Just do it directly. Sure enough, Bakugo Katsuki couldn't bear the loneliness, and took the lead in launching the attack. He drove his own blasting, like a magician rushing over. But the magician smiled at this moment, as if he was waiting for Bakugo Katsuki to come over. When Bakugo Katsuki was about to touch the magician quickly threw a glass ball towards Bakugo Katsuki. Bakugo Katsuki was sucked into the glass ball. The series of things that happened just now made the other 4 people dumbfounded. At this moment, they really didn't know what happened. Bakugo Katsuki just couldn't disappear softly. Okay, now that the man has been obtained, I won't play with you any longer, I will withdraw first, and we will see you again. The magician has achieved his goal, and he must be running away now, otherwise he will be alone. It must be superfluous for people who don't have the ability to stand here. The magician ran away quickly. Shoto Todoroki, Yaoyorozu Momo and the others finally reacted at this time, and hurriedly chased them out. They couldn't let the magician take Bakugo Katsuki away. Because Bakugo Katsuki is too hostile, he always wants to fight. If he is taken away, he will go to the League of Villains. If the League of Villains said something inspiring, Bakugo Katsuki will follow them what to do. So that's what worries them the most. They made a lot of noise. Even the male protagonist who was far away on the top of the mountain noticed something was wrong here, and when the male protagonist arrived, it was already too late. What happened? Why are you alone? Where is Bakugo Katsuki? After the male protagonist came down, he first observed the number of people, and found that there were only 4 people, and there was no Bakugo Katsuki, so he anxiously asked where Bakugo Katsuki was. What if anything happens to Katsuki, it will be dangerous. We didn't know what kind of tricks the guy from 4.9 just used to kill Bakugo Katsuki. Yaoyorozu Momo told the male lead everything that happened just now, and the male lead frowned the more he heard it. He really couldn't wait any longer, and waved his wings alone to chase the magician in front of him. Bakugo Katsuki, you must be fine, don't you still have to fight me? If something happens to you, I swear I will never fight you in my life, so you better pray that I can catch up quickly, get you out. 229 Enter the League of Villains headquarters alone. Please subscribe. When the hero was about to catch up with the magician, it turned out that all the people from the League of Villains had appeared. Every one of them wanted to stop the hero, but the hero is now ignoring the magic, so it can be said that the hero, the Lord, is now invincible and unstoppable. Tamura Shigaraki, hurry up and return my people to me, or I will make you pay a heavy price. The male protagonist finally saw the long-lost villains. Tamura Shigaraki is actually no stranger to the male protagonist. They have negotiated several times before, but they have never confronted each other head-on. But this time, if they really want to confront each other head-on, the male lead will never leave. He must take Bakugo Katsuki back. Since we came here in 09, we must have a purpose. The purpose has been achieved. It is absolutely impossible for you to think that we will return him. Tamura Shigaraki scratched her cheek. She really didn't like it. I understand. Is the hero's thinking really naive? The reason for returning the people after they have already been obtained, what they do now is to retreat safely, and now they are afraid that someone who will be a professional hero if there are too many people coming, it will be difficult for them to retreat. If you don't return the person, I will definitely not let you leave like this. I will definitely pester you until you hand over the person. I think you should also know my ability. I must have the strength to wish you all alone, although I say that one person may not be able to defeat so many of you, but if I try my best, there is still a slight chance of winning. Now it is really hard work. He tried his best. He must take Bakugo Katsuki back. If Bakugo Katsuki is used by the League of Villains to do bad things, it will be over. Then you can try it. Don't forget, you are only one person now, but we have so many people. Do you think you can defeat so many of us by yourself? Then you really underestimate us. We can form an alliance, so we have our own capital. Tamura Shigaraki felt like he heard some big joke after hearing what the hero said, and started to laugh out loud. The male lead was not affected at all. He is already accumulating energy and if necessary, he will definitely use his greatest ability to fight them to the death and take Bakugo Katsuki back. Ah, we met. Himiko Toga finally opened his mouth after seeing the male protagonist from his body, but the male protagonist didn't want the woman in front of him at all. Even though he is a student, he wants to become so scary and rebel against the society. Is it because of rebellion that he joined the League of Villains? You want to fight with so many of us, we don't have time to deal with you now, but we have more important things to do, how could it be wasted on you alone? Sister Mag was smoking a cigarette in her mouth, but he told the truth, they really don't have time now, the male lead and the others must retreat quickly, otherwise they will be in trouble soon. If you don't hand over Bakugo Katsuki, I won't let you leave like this. The hero is determined to take Bakugo Katsuki back. You are struggling here by yourself now, we don't have time for you. Kurogiri quickly opened the portal, we have to leave now. Tamura Shigaraki squinted at the male lead, then turned to look at the black mist beside him, activated his ability after receiving the order, and a black vortex appeared behind them in an instant. Seeing that the people from the League of Villains were about to leave, the male protagonist finally rushed up regardless, and he entered the black hole with the people from the League of Villains. The male protagonist followed the League of Villains to the headquarters of the League of Villains, which caught the male protagonist a little off guard, but he still did not flinch. Male lead, I admire your courage, but do you look down on us too much? How incompetent do you think we are if you dare to break into our headquarters by yourself? Tamura Shigaraki couldn't believe what he saw. Yes, isn't this the male lead? The male lead really came in with them. This is the first time a professional hero has entered the midst of them all alone, without any pretense. You don't have to admire my guts. Since I dare to come in, it means I have the ability. Hurry up and hand over Bakugo Katsuki to me. Although the hero is panicking in his heart now, he must remain calm, even if he is to coax the group of people in front of you, you must also coax them around. The two sides have been at a stalemate now, and sweat slowly trickled down from Nanjing's forehead. 230 Occupy. Please subscribe. Moment after burst of wailing was endless, and the person who kept screaming with his teeth and claws just now kept silent. Anzhe looked down at him contemptuously, showing a monstrous killing momentum. The monstrous killing power on Anzhe's body was exposed from within his body, and a man who was kneeling on the ground shivered under the pressure, clasped his hands together, and kowtowed desperately to Anzhe, even ignoring the blood oozing from his forehead. The aura on Anzhe's body was so powerful and terrifying that one could clearly feel it with just a glance. Although Tamura Shigaraki was not as disdainful as before, he still didn't want to back down. Seeing that his subordinate was so useless, he couldn't help but kick that person fiercely in disgust. The man staggered and fell backwards, still begging for mercy verbally. Please, please forgive me, please forgive me. Anzhe compared the sharp weapon to his throat as if nothing had happened, and blood flowed from the sword. Anzhe looked at the blood on the tip of the sharp weapon and sneered, but, why should I spare you? The person who was crying at Waxiang seemed to suddenly fall into the ice, and his eyes flashed a trace of ruthlessness. Since you don't give me a way out, I will die no matter what, even if I die, I will pull a back. As soon as the words fell, the man took out the sharp weapon he had prepared in advance, and stabbed towards Anzhe's direction. Anzhe seemed to have ignored the man as if nothing had happened. Overreaching backquote. Anzhe snorted coldly. The people who survived the disaster obediently hid to the other side, their pupils suddenly dilated and stared at Kato dumbfounded. There is such a strong man, so terrifying. I'll give you one last chance. You hand over Bakugo Katsuki to me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. Tamura Shigaraki suppressed his anger and squeezed out a few words from his teeth. Anzhe snorted coldly. Do you think I'm the kind of person who can be manipulated casually? Or do you think I will hand over Bakugo Katsuki because of you? Besides, Bakugo Katsuki is not in my hands at all. Quote. Anzhe's words unconsciously aroused Tamura Shigaraki's deeper anger, the kind of anger from the inside out that almost burned him up, the monstrous anger. It has to be said that Anzhe is really a person who can easily push others to the point of unbearable. Tamura Shigaraki's expression is getting more and more ferocious, every cell in his body is ready to move, and the gushing momentum almost overwhelms him. Anzhe's body was dripping with sweat, a different kind of mood grew wantonly from his heart, and he spit out a few words from his mouth. Trash. As soon as the word, waste, came out, it seemed to hit Tamura Shigaraki's pain point, that person was triggered by something, and the majestic aura surged out of his body in an instant. Clouds and mists had already appeared around Tamura Shigaraki's body, and under the lingering clouds and mists, a muscular figure appeared faintly. Anzhe has already seen that Tamura Shigaraki is trying to obtain his own blood. If Tamura Shigaraki obtains Anzhe's blood, he can obtain Anlian's appearance and all Anhua's abilities. If Tamura Shigaraki has Anzhe's ability, then the two can be neck and neck, and even Tamura Shigaraki has a little chance of defeating Anzhe. If Anzhe is in his hands, then he must be sure to find out where Bakugo Katsuki is. After so many twists and turns, he has only one purpose: to find out Bakugo Katsuki's trace. Bit by bit, Kurogiri wrapped around Tamura Shigaraki's body. At first, there was a layer of light Kurogiri, then a heavier layer of Kurogiri, and finally a heavier layer of dark Kurogiri that could not be seen at all. Arrive. Tamura Shigaraki was hidden in Kurogiri, unable to be seen. Anzhe closed his eyes, feeling the changes in the air. The flow in the air moved to one side for a while, and then to the other side for a while. The two-phase flow of airflow entwined Tamura Shigaraki's body. Anzhe felt as if a different airflow suddenly appeared in one direction. It was an unimaginable smell. The pungent stench invaded the tip of his nose in an instant, and all the rancid odor invaded Anzhe's mind, and Anzhe Lidahao only felt dizzy. Anzhe looked at the right time, took advantage of a gap, and frantically attacked in that direction desperately. Anzhe closed his eyes tightly, and there were already thousands of surges in his eyes. Tamura Shigaraki attacked first. If Anzhe refused to fight, he would be cowardly and make people laugh. Besides, in terms of strength, Tamura Shigaraki is no match for Anzhe. Why should Anzhe be afraid of them? Anzhe's eyes were closed tightly, and a monstrous aura erupted from his body, and the exercises on his body were vividly displayed. It was just a matter of a split second, the monstrous offensive spread downward one after another. 231A Fire Dragon is born. Please subscribe. Anzhe and Tamura Shigaraki looked at each other, and the moment they made eye contact, there was a burst of misfire. Anzhe and Tamura Shigaraki faced each other tit for tat, with a pair of sharp eyes revealing all kinds of sharpness. Today is the day of your death. Tamura Shigaraki almost squeezed out a few words bitterly from the root of his teeth, and Tamura Shigaraki gradually revealed his figure amidst the surrounding Kurogiri. The skinny and shriveled body is shriveled, with almost no flesh hanging from it, just a few skins hanging from a skeleton. The eye sockets were deeply sunken. Anzhe stared at the face and figure of the man, and felt more and more gloomy and melancholy about the man, as if he had fallen into a boundless hell. Tamura Shigaraki looked at Anzhe with concern. Anzhe always felt that there seemed to be something different about this person. Just when Anzhe was wondering, suddenly, Tamura Shigaraki took the right time to attack Anzhe in a crazy 800 direction. A lingering flame suddenly appeared on Anzhe's body, and it was only after he took a closer look that he realized that this was Anzhe's famous magic. Fire Dragon Slayer magic, including Fire Dragon's Iron Fist, Fire Dragon's Flame, Fire Dragon's Roar, Thunder Dragon's Fangtian Halberd, Thunderstorm Raging Waves, Sky Thunder, Ice Shape Lancers, Countless Ice Cavalry, Spear, Group Attack Ice Shape, Frozen Spring, Freeze the Opponent Ice Shape, Silver World, Large Range into a Frost World, Ice Shape, Floor, Frozen Ground, Ice Shape, Reaper's Scythe, Ice creates a huge Reaper's Scythe. The reason why Anzhe is still known by people is the magic that Anzhe possesses. These magics that maintain life constitute a part of Anzhe's life. Anzhe's body suddenly ignited a monstrous flame, and the blazing flame almost enveloped the whole person, and was almost enveloped by a phantom long dragon in the flames of the fire. The dragon let out bursts of roaring sounds. A muffled sound resounded from its throat. That deafening sound resounded throughout the entire world. Between the heavens and the earth, it seemed to be suppressed by an invisible force. Just the moment he got close to this fire dragon, Tamura Shigaraki inexplicably felt deafening in his ears. Damn it. Although he had been prepared, Tamura Shigaraki still didn't expect that the rumors all along were so true. The power of the fire dragon in Anbong was so terrifying. Tamura Shigaraki remained calm with lingering fear. His body seemed to be wrapped by an invisible pressure bondage. The corner of Anzhe's mouth traced an arc, and before everyone had time to react, suddenly, the mouth of the fire dragon let out roars one after another, and a flame several feet high spewed out from the mouth of the fire dragon. But anyone who is close to this flame already feels that his body is about to be melted. In the nearby fields, the air became more and more distorted, and a feeling of anxiety grew wantonly in everyone's AJBJ hearts. Not only that, a few people with poor martial arts even melted into a puddle of water. Leave a little leeway. The fire dragon penetrated from the ground into the midair, and the midair fire dragon went straight into the ground again. The long dragon tail swept across all the places along its path, leaving only a burst of burning smell. Go. With a high voice. The fire dragon then followed the master's command and galloped in one direction, and the place it passed was scorched and burned. Tamura Shigaraki felt his body was about to move as if something was about to be broken through. He could only feel the raging flames that seemed to be burning on his body. This kind of flames scorched his body. His body seemed to be melted by the fire. Tamura Shigaraki closed his eyes tightly, grinned hoarsely in pain. His face was almost distorted and deformed. The burning flames on his body kept burning himself, and the feeling of being scorched was everywhere. Ah! Anzhe suddenly yelled. While doing exercises, Anzhe felt that his body seemed to have a faint burning tendency, and there seemed to be a faint tendency to break through. It's like being killed by several horses at the same time. Pulling. It's not going to break through, is it? Anzhe's face was filled with excitement. Although he had vaguely guessed some reasons, he still couldn't believe it. Anzhe snorted twice, carried it over, gritted his teeth fiercely, and clasped his hands tightly. Because of too much force, his hands even dripped blood. Anzhe's voice groaned one after another, enduring the pain, but the physical injury became more and more serious. The fire dragon on Anzhe's body suddenly overturned all the nearby things in a random collision, and instantly all those things fell to the ground indiscriminately, making a crackling sound. A layer of white had appeared on Tamura Shigaraki's lips, and it became more and more pale and weak. It could be seen that Tamura Shigaraki was just trying to hold on now. In fact, there was no room left in his body. 232 Two Heavens of Ice and Fire. Please subscribe. Seeing that Tamura Shigaraki couldn't beat Anzhe for a long time, it was useless to continue to stay here. If this continues, maybe he will die here. Immediately, Tamura Shigaraki had an idea, and his eyes turned back and forth. After a while, the fire dragon rose into the air and entwined around Tamura Shigaraki's body. Shigaraki's body is normal. No matter what, Tamura Shigaraki can't move. Damn it! Tamura Shigaraki cursed inwardly, as if his body was covered by a 1,000-layer roof and he couldn't move. However, when the fire dragon tried to run outside following Anzhe's order, Tamura Shigaraki's body seemed to be stiff. The fire dragon kept wandering around Tamura Shigaraki's body, leaving hot marks wherever it passed, leaving a lot of red edema blisters, large and small. Tamura Shigaraki screamed shrilly, but they turned a deaf ear to these shrill voices. Although Tamura Shigaraki wanted to leave first, the fire dragon seemed to grow on him, and he couldn't move the fire away no matter what. But this fire dragon condensed the magic on Anzhe, unless Anzhe dispelled this magic, otherwise, no matter what, the magic on Tamura Shigaraki could not be solved. Tamura Shigaraki curled up on the ground and trembled, and his body kept rolling on the ground. The burning smell in the air was mixed with the feeling of being scorched in his body, adding together one after another. Anzhe smiled sinisterly. It's time to put some serious stuff on you. As soon as the words fell, the fire dragon had guidance, and his body finally loosened slightly. However, the next moment, Tamura Shigaraki suffered a more painful test. Anzhe's added flavor can almost make Tamura Shigaraki feel like dying, with the fire dragon on one side and the other side. This ice dragon shared half of Anzhe's power, and the hell near the ice dragon instantly fell into an ice cave, surrounded by ice-condensed cold. The biting cold almost made people freeze. If it is such a downright cold, ordinary people will be frozen into corpses immediately, or even fragmented so that the whole body cannot be left. It was not easy for Tamura Shigaraki to persist for such a long time. The temperature of the ice dragon almost stagnated the blood flowing in his body. After a while, the fire dragon still slowly started to move. Tamura Shigaraki is surrounded by an ice dragon on one side and a fire dragon on the other. It can be said that it has already become a world of ice and fire. In the last second, Tamura Shigaraki seemed to be feeling the bone-piercing cold at the north and south poles, and in the next second, Tamura Shigaraki seemed to be scorched by countless flames. The burning sensation almost made his body melt. Tamura Shigaraki felt as if he was going to be melted in the first second and frozen in the next second. Such a huge difference will drive Tamura Shigaraki crazy. The most terrifying thing is, Tamura Shigaraki still unable to get rid of this predicament. It turned out that what they said was true, and Anzhe was so terrifying. Now, do you know how to admit defeat? Anzhe looked at Tamura Shigaraki condescendingly. That kind of contemptuous gaze came from the bottom of his heart, and the acclaimed Tamura Shigaraki, in fact, was really nothing more than that. Admit defeat. Why should I, Tamura Shigaraki, admit defeat? Do you Anzhe think you are powerful? Do you think you are the master of the world? Do you think you are great? Let me tell you, you Anzhe are bullshit in the eyes of me, Tamura Shigaraki. No, it is impossible for you to hear the words of begging for mercy and admitting defeat from me in this life, understand? Tamura Shigaraki almost squeezed out these words bit by bit from the root of his teeth, full of hatred for Anzhe. He has had enough. Since he can't live anymore, it's good to speak quickly. 0R. Tamura Shigaraki spat contemptuously. I'll tell you Anzhe, listen to me, I, Tamura Shigaraki, in this life, even if I die, I will not be coerced by you, and I will surrender to you casually. What's more, you are not worthy. I look down on you from the bottom of my heart. 0. While speaking, a fire dragon and an ice dragon kept walking on Tamura Shigaraki's body. The two phases were hot and cold, and Tamura Shigaraki's lips were already covered with a layer of blue-purple. In the final analysis, this Tamura Shigaraki is also a character, but how come he is in front of Anzhe? It seems that even Anzhe's finger can't compare with it. Anzhe didn't pay attention to Tamura Shigaraki at all. His eyes were full of contempt. Anzhe dismissed Tamura Shigaraki, and said lightly, "What are you?" Tamura Shigaraki was triggered by something. It seemed that he was completely overwhelmed by the hot fire. Tamura Shigaraki was full of anger and was ready to make the last 10 strikes at any time. Thick fog burst from Tamura Shigaraki's body, and large groups of black clouds surrounded Tamura Shigaraki's body, and Tamura Shigaraki's eyes became more and more ferocious. 233 Desperate Battle. Please subscribe. The black clouds and mist kept accumulating, changing from surrounding to enveloping in layers, gradually enveloping Tamura Shigaraki in the clouds and mist. Only the fire dragon and ice dragon that tormented him still entangled him and writhed up and down in the clouds and mist. Anzhe still stood there without moving, looking coldly at the black clouds gradually accumulating in front of him, and those eyes that had changed from ferocious to blood red, which didn't change his contemptuous expression in the slightest. In the dense black cloud, those blood red eyes penetrated through layers of wrapping, spraying Tamura Shigaraki's strong anger and unwillingness. The pain of ice and fire is still tormenting him, and Anzhe's contemptuous, 573, expression makes his blood boil. Even if he can't survive today, he will never admit defeat, never give in. Even if he dies, he will make Anzhe pay the price. The black mist has condensed like lacquer, and the blood-red eyes of Tamura Shigaraki changed. In an instant, the black mist scattered, filling the surrounding space, enveloping Anzhe as if covering the sky. Although the black cloud at this moment is no longer pitch black, it is as thin as mist, as if it can be blown away by a breeze. But Anzhe, who was in it, seemed to be covered with all senses, vision, hearing and touch, and could no longer feel anything, as if everything was still and frozen. Anzhe looked around indifferently, raised his left hand and closed it slightly, watching the clouds and mist flowing gently between his hands, as if he saw a god. He didn't move anymore. At this time, Tamura Shigaraki, who was hiding in the clouds and mist, was behind Anzhe, and the hateful fire dragon and ice dragon were also suppressed by the clouds and mist, and could no longer writhe. The strong hatred and killing intent made him unable to feel the duality of ice and fire in his body. In the pain of suffering, he only worked hard to maintain the flow of the cloud and mist, and the trump card in his hand, a wisp of mist that was as thin as the cloud and mist. The difference was that this wisp of mist did not flow slowly, but trembled like a flame in the palm of his hand. It is also really the flame of Tamura Shigaraki's life. As long as it can get close to Anzhe's skin, the flame of this mist will burn and burn this cloud. Even though it will burn the last life of Tamura Shigaraki, but thinking of Anzhe being burned to death in this cloud, thinking of Anzhe's burning pain and wailing, thinking of Anzhe will also burn his last life in the cloud, Tamura Shigaraki's heart is full unlimited enjoyment. But Tamura Shigaraki still has to suppress this joy, he has to approach Anzhe cautiously, and send the death flame that ends Anzhe's life as close as possible to Anzhe. Anzhe still looked at the cloud and mist flowing in the palm of his hand without moving, as if he didn't know anything. But the slanted corners of the mouth and the teasing expression all showed that Tamura Shigaraki's final blow to life was still like a childish trick, ridiculous and boring. Tamura Shigaraki finally got close to Anzhe and stopped 3 steps away from Anzhe. Under the protection of clouds and mist, no one could see Tamura Shigaraki even if they were face to face. It's coming, the happy moment to torment Anzhe is finally coming. Tamura Shigaraki tried his best to suppress his excitement, and shot out the flames from the cloud in his hand. Seeing that it was about to be attached to Anzhe's body, Tamura Shigaraki's already bloodshot eyes were even more excited as if they were about to bleed. Suddenly, the clouds cleared. It seems that the dense fog in the mountains has been evaporated by the sun, and a little water vapor can be seen faintly. Anzhe, who hadn't moved all this time, then turned around, looked at Tamura Shigaraki behind him, whose expression of excitement was still frozen, clapped his hands, and boasted with a smile. These fogs are well done, and they look pretty good. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. Knowing that Anzhe was fooling his last blow with all his strength, Tamura Shigaraki screamed furiously and rushed forward, but before he could take a step, Tamura Shigaraki, who had almost burned his life, fell to the ground. His hands were still waving forward to vent the incomparable hatred in his heart, but he couldn't move anymore. Anzhe walked up to Tamura Shigaraki and knelt down, patted Tamura Shigaraki's distorted and haggard face pitifully. Fire dragons and ice dragons have already engraved your life with ice and fire, so what if you burn your life into clouds? It's not like it can disappear in the ice and fire in an instant. Even if you kill me, I will look down on you and never lose. At the end of his life, the dead handle 3.8 wooden hanger, which was exhausted and withered, could only growl weakly, staring angrily at the person who took his life. Until the redness in the eyes slowly faded, and the head held up vigorously fell on the soil, and the hatred burning in the heart gradually cooled down. Anzhe stood up slowly, looking at Tamura Shigaraki's body, there was nothing worth fluctuating emotions. He summoned the fire dragon and ice dragon to his eyes, watched Tamura Shigaraki's body disappear in the ice and fire, like a dissipating cloud, without a trace, turned and left. 234 leeway. Please subscribe. Anzhe looked at Tamura Shigaraki, who was lying in a pool of blood, and sighed slightly. This person usually loves to be competitive and has always called himself a hero. Today, death by Anzhe's hands is a worthy death. In such a field, there is such a news that Anzhe has re-entered the world, a rare genius in a century. Everyone has heard of the tragic death of Tamura Shigaraki, and Anzhe's reputation makes everyone fearful. Anzhe, the protagonist of this news, didn't take it seriously. After that battle, Anzhe began to practice more and more diligently. He knew clearly that now that his reputation had spread, more and more people feel afraid of Anzhe, but at this moment, the surging magic power in Anzhe's body quietly and gradually began to grow silently. There seems to be a warm current in Anzhe's body, which gradually spreads to the whole body from top to bottom. Gradually, Anzhe feels that the dantian on his body seems to be getting hotter and hotter. More and more various air currents are intertwined, and all the air currents seem to fuse together in an instant. Anzhe feels more and more conditions appearing on his body. Anzhe seems to see something in a trance. After a while, suddenly open your eyes in between. The mouth said a few words lightly. Breakthrough. A strong joy invaded his whole body in an instant, and the corner of Anzhe's mouth curved slightly, and his smile deepened. I didn't expect you, Tamura Shigaraki, to do a good deed for me before you died, and you even let me break through by a coincidence. According to this momentum, it must be able to increase its strength greatly in the future. Tamura Shigaraki's body began to stink gradually, and a strong rancid smell gradually began to permeate the air, and the faint smell in the air became heavier and heavier, almost nauseating. Anzhe gently covered his nose and felt a splitting headache. Not long after, Anzhe waved his hand lightly, and immediately, a raging flame ignited on Tamura Shigaraki's body. The flame surged several feet high, the burning air became more and more distorted, and the strong stench of corpses spread in the air over and over again. Anzhe waved his hand again, and soon, the mass of Kurogiri around Tamura Shigaraki's body gradually dissipated bit by bit, and the mass of Kurogiri disappeared bit by bit in the burning of the fire, leaving no black mist. The protected Tamura Shigaraki gradually revealed a hideous face under the burning of the fire. Tamura Shigaraki was almost distorted in the flames, his face became more and more distorted, and even the smell of burnt meat on his body became stronger and stronger. Soon, Tamura Shigaraki had a dry bone left, and even the dry bone disappeared into ashes little by little. The rest of the people looked at each other, one after another, they didn't know what they were looking at. This was the first time their entire worldview was subverted. They saw the famous Tamura Shigaraki died in front of them, and even there is no room for a little fight back. Although they had heard of Anzhe's reputation for a long time, but when everyone saw Anzhe's real ability, they really realized what a terrifying person he was. Since then, Anzhe's reputation has been truly in a sense, it has a foothold in the entire rivers and lakes. With the sound of exclamation one after another, those people spontaneously began to step back little by little. More and more people looked at Anbang with some respect in their eyes. This is such a person, whose strength is not only so terrifying, but also unscrupulous and unscrupulous. Such a person can easily let a head roll to the ground without any expression. Even under such circumstances, Anzhe could take a life so decisively and easily without any hesitation. See, that's what happens if you offend me. Anzhe slightly curved his mouth, but the voice that came out of the noise was full of contempt, without any warmth at all. As soon as the words fell, everyone standing nearby was shivering with cold. Just standing here, this person would feel inexplicable fear. The power of this person is unconsciously spreading from the inside out. Come on, it's frightening. Tamura Shigaraki's last mournful cry was still in my ears, leaving behind one after another. No one dared to challenge Anzhe's authority. Anzhe calmed down the breath in his body, and felt more and more that through this battle, it seemed that some of the meridians in Anzhe's body had been gradually opened up to some extent. Anzhe's strength will only get stronger and stronger. A group of people tried to avoid a road for Anzhe. Anzhe didn't shirk, and walked on that road quietly by himself. However, there seemed to be something very poisonous near the place Anzhe passed by, and all the people they all spontaneously began to shiver and avoid a road. How can a person who is beyond his control have a good end? 235 City A. Please subscribe. The Dark Lord Anzhe haunts City A, and there is a legend circulating in City A that Anzhe, the most talented supreme master in the entire City A, is the biggest demon that has harmed the entire City A. Luo-kun, the ruler of City A, received Anzhe kindly. Anzhe couldn't shirk his responsibility, so he complied with Luo-kun's arrangement. It's rare for you to come to City A. No matter what the outside world says about you, we will always welcome you here in Los Angeles. Luo-kun's tone was respectful, and his whole body was dressed in gold and silver. From the beginning to the end, no matter where it was, it all showed dignity and status. Anzhe glanced at Luo-kun contemptuously. Luo-kun shuddered all over, and Anzhe calmly sat down on the seat next to Luo-kun. Grand Master, your presence has made us flourish. Please forgive us for any lack of hospitality here. Anzhe, known as the Grand Master, smiled faintly. Since he chopped off Tamura Shigaraki's head that day, he took over the territory of the Dark Lair by the way. The Dark Lair has always been the darkest place in the entire world, but at the same time, the Dark Lair is also a place that has always been isolated from the outside world. There are rumors that countless masters have always appeared in the Dark Lair, and these masters can almost dominate this place. In the worldview guidelines of the Dark Lair, they all believe in, the strong are respected. The credo of, the strong is the most respected, is particularly evident in the Dark Lair. However, Anzhe, known as the Master, only used a few moves to defeat the enemy, so all the subjects of the Dark Lair automatically surrendered to the Master Anzhe. To some extent, Anzhe has even become the Lord of the Dark Lair. Now Anzhe not only has the world-famous reputation but also has the status of the Lord of the Dark Lair. Even those who are convinced or not are all respectful of Anzhe. Luo-kun had to find ways to keep Anzhe here in City A, so as not to let other places take the lead. Anzhe had a panoramic view of Luo-kun's thoughts. Now that Luo-kun is showing his favor, Anzhe knows in his heart that it is not for anything else but for the war that City A will provoke in the future. If Anzhe joins the camp of City A, it will be of great benefit to City A and will add countless help. Luo-kun is a smart man, so of course he would not give up such an opportunity, and Anzhe is not hesitant to be persuaded, but Anzhe also has his own ideas in his heart. City A is easy to defend and attack. If this area can be included in the pocket, it's not a bad thing either. Luo-kun, why did you invite me to City A this time? Although Anzhe understood, he still asked tentatively. Luo-kun rolled his eyes, and his thoughts were already in 1,000 turns. Luo-kun smiled treacherously. Grandmaster, you are out of touch now. You may have forgotten, but I still remember. Grandmaster Anzhe once shared the same goals with me. Brother, nowadays, Grandmaster Anzhe has become famous, but I haven't had a good time with my like-minded brother for a long time. The corner of Anzhe's mouth curved slightly, and he sneered in his heart. Luo-kun, who kept saying that he was like-minded, had actually betrayed him once. At that time, Anzhe was still very easy to trust others, and Anzhe would always remember everything that was kind to Anzhe. Just as Anzhe was holding his heart in his hands and was about to dedicate it to this like-minded brother, this brother, together with the outsiders, sincerely put Anzhe to death. If Anzhe hadn't escaped by chance, Anzhe would have already been half buried in the ground, and he didn't know where his head went. However, probably Luo-kun didn't know that Anzhe had already known the ins and outs of the matter, and was still immersed in the days when he and Anzhe were called brothers and sisters. Juan asked him to join the camp of City A. Brother, the safety of all the people in Los Angeles is tied to me. As the person in power here, I should shoulder the responsibility no matter what. Luo-kun said so earnestly that even Anzhe himself believed it. If Anzhe hadn't seen Luo-kun's face a long time ago, Anzhe really almost believed it. Anzhe smiled lightly. Yeah, I still remember when you and I drank 3 times on the chopping board, so we accepted the vow of sworn brotherhood, but then I suffered an accident and was massacred by others. I still think of my worshipper, okay, Nuo Zhao, as a brother who is looking forward to it every day and night, but he can't look forward to my brother who worships me. When I saw him today, for some reason, I suddenly couldn't recognize my brother from that day. Zhu. Anzhe's words are cadenced, and after several twists and turns, they are all yin and yang. There is nothing wrong with these words on weekdays, but today, the speaker has no intention of hearing and the other has intentions. I don't know what to do with the taste. Luo-kun could only smile awkwardly. Where is it? Anzhe was too lazy to talk to him, and smiled to himself. I remember the things you did bit by bit very clearly. 236 Earth Element Magic. Please subscribe. Anzhe's words were meaningful. Luo-kun sensed something, but still kept silent. Anzhe, there are so many masters in City A. As the master among the masters, you are naturally the one we try our best to lure into the fire. Since we are brothers, I actually don't want to hide it from you. Anzhe, join us. If Anzhe hadn't seen Luo-kun's face a long time ago, despite Luo-kun's smooth talker, he would be willing to give him the saddle no matter what. However, how can the current Anzhe be compared with the previous Anzhe? Give me some real favors. Now I don't care about the family affection of those full of brothers and sisters. Why don't you make a price? If I am satisfied with the price you make, I will voluntarily join City A and become the leader here. As a member, you don't need to persuade me, I will naturally give you the saddle, but Luo-kun, you have to convince me. Although Anzhe's words seem to give enough attention, they actually reveal another meaning. If Luo-kun's bargaining chips are not enough, then Anzhe will not agree to his request no matter what. What 937 needs to see now is to know what kind of bargaining chip Luo-kun can offer. A slight arc is drawn at the corner of Anzhe's mouth. The only certainty is that he will win this battle. Anzhe's smile deepened. However, Luo-kun showed embarrassment. Luo-kun clearly understood that Anzhe's current appearance was giving Luo-kun a bad impression. Luo-kun pressed his lips tightly, almost as a few words squeezed from the root of the tooth. Grandmaster, we are guaranteed to be the one with the most bids and chips in all places. In addition, Anzhe, as a brother, you may as well just say what you want. What do you want? As the person in charge of City A, as long as you want, I will spare no effort. Quote. Anzhe laughed loudly, and said firmly, I see, I'm afraid you can't afford the price I offer. No matter how confused people are, they can clearly hear the twists and turns in these words, not to mention that Luo-kun is talented, and he must have understood Anzhe's meaning long ago, but if you ask for help, no matter the other party to some extent, this so-called person in power in City A has to bear whatever face he puts on. Why don't you listen to my brother? Luo-kun had no choice but to bite the bullet and answer. Anzhe's smile deepened. This effect was what he wanted, and now Taigong Zhang took the bait. As for Luo-kun's reaction, for some reason, Anzhe really wanted to know. I want the Earth-type exercises. Anzhe said lightly, but it sounded like a thunderbolt in this open space. People dream of. As the owner of fire magic and water magic, earth magic is often of great benefit to his strength improvement. It is a bold idea that if Anzhe has fire magic, water magic and earth magic, then Anzhe's strength will be it is raised to an unexpected level, and it is a bold assumption that if the three kinds of magic are combined, then to some extent Anzhe can even become an unrivaled master in the entire field. This is why Anzhe accepted Luo-kun's invitation. In the entire field, only Luo-kun has the highest level of earth magic. Therefore, if Anzhe wants to obtain earth magic, he can only seek Luo-kun's help. If this guy is really willing to hand over the earth element skills, then he, Anzhe, is considered to be contributing to City A, so what if he stands in the camp of City A? Luo-kun's face was cloudy for a while, his thoughts had already turned thousands of times, his eyes couldn't dodge in time, and it seemed that something was tightly grasping his body. On the one hand, everyone desires earth-type magic, and on the other hand, the supreme power of City A. Luo-kun wants both, but in fact, he can only choose one of power and earth-type magic. When Luo-kun fell into pain and entanglement, a pair of eyes actually hated Anzhe. The brotherhood at that time was true, and the promise at that time was true, but the later betrayal was also true, and the later disintegration was also true. If you want to make it clear, to be clear is another muddled account. Luo-kun wanted to open his mouth to say something several times, but when the words came to his lips, he couldn't say anything anyway. Earth magic. Do you want him? Luo-kun intentionally dragged the end of the sound long, and a meaningful feeling kept becoming longer and longer in the air. Anzhe suddenly stared into Luo-kun's eyes and said nothing. After a long while, he said firmly, I can forget all the past things, and I can forget all the past things completely. Jing, the premise is that if you give me the earth magic on your body, no matter if you ask me to stay in City A, or any other request, I will agree to you. I only want this exercise of yours. Quote. 237 Singing together. Please subscribe. Selena Gomez posts powerful bikini then and now. 285. 74. 249. Earth-type magic, as a few magic books that use softness to overcome rigidity, has always been the object of competition for masters from all walks of life. The five magics of gold, wood, water, fire, and earth are mutually restraining and sometimes they can blend with each other. Anzhe has mastered the two types of magic, water and fire, and the remaining wood and earth magics can be combined with the two magics of water and fire. To a certain extent, the simultaneous existence of two kinds of magic in the human body is already the limit. Even the master among the masters still can only master two kinds of magic. However, it is different now. Anzhe understands that he has been left in the limelight recently. If not for the current limelight, he has obviously overshadowed others. In fact, the masters in the field he lives in have always avoided the world. If, one day, it happens that these masters know his name, and his behavior has always been ostentatious, then he must go through some entanglements. In this entanglement, everyone has always been the biggest. If his magic power is not enough, he will soon become someone else's possession and be slaughtered by others. Anzhe is an ambitious person. He is a person who is not willing to spend his whole life in ignorance. So, Anzhe wants to break through. Anzhe wants to become stronger. Anzhe wants to become a very strong person. That's the only way. Anzhe only then can he dominate the entire martial arts world. He wants to make those who despised him take a good look at him. He wants to make him a person they can't reach. A person they can't reach. No matter what, Anzhe will do it arrive. Therefore, Anzhe could temporarily forget this brother who was once a good friend in the past, and finally stabbed him without hesitation. He could hold back the disgust of such a person who is now showing great hospitality. There is only one purpose, that is, he must get the native magic. It would be great if Luo-kun voluntarily offered this magic book. If Luo-kun kept this magic book for himself, Anzhe would not doubt that he would force it. What's so hard about grabbing? The corner of Anzhe's mouth traced a slight arc, and the internal strength contained in his body began to move more and more. Standing beside him, Luo-kun couldn't help but feel his body start to feel slightly cold. If he wasn't next to Anzhe, how could he feel it? This surging and monstrous internal force cultivation base. This is what kind of terrifying person? Luo-kun's heart rose to his throat. It's not that he didn't think about this hypothesis before, and it's not that he didn't think about the very possible reason why Anzhe accepted the invitation to come to City A for a talk. However, Luo-kun always felt that he had those things were well buried. Even if Anzhe misunderstood, he couldn't find evidence. However, the words between Anzhe and Luo-kun today invisibly made Luo-kun more certain that this matter seems to have been discovered by Anzhe. Not only that, it has become a knot in Anzhe's heart. If there is no problem, no matter how Luo-kun explains, Anzhe has determined that Luo-kun caused this situation. However, Anzhe came here not only because of revenge, but also because of another more important reason, that is, the earth magic in Luo-kun's hands is extremely superior magic in the entire field. How can I say that the solitary book in Luo-kun's hands is at least among the top 5, while the remaining 4 are masters who are hidden from the world and can't find it no matter what? A trace of cruelty flashed across Luo-kun's eyes. If it hadn't been for other purposes, he really wanted to cut off this man's head with his own hands. 0. Seeking flowers. It is said that Anzhe contains 2 kinds of magic in his body, and now he wants earth magic. Isn't this looking forward to going crazy? Why don't you give it to him for now? And he can't shirk what he promised, so he can't practice it, let alone this native land. The Department of Magic has long been in his pocket and has been practiced thoroughly, so what can he do if he is given it? Thinking of this, Luo-kun smiled darkly, and said lightly to Anzhe's eyes, then we have agreed, I will bring you the only book of earth magic, and you Anzhe will guard City A for me, how about it? Luo-kun's words were quite provocative, but Anzhe didn't pay attention to it. Of course he could guess what this man was thinking. But in this world, no one is a fool, but some people always like to treat others as fools, but those who trust others from the beginning are pitiful and betrayed in the end without knowing it. Anzhe clapped his hands suddenly, with a frivolous expression on his face. This elmhead still wanted to try to play tricks on him, but what he didn't know was whether he was overconfident or he was too confident. Okay, you give me earth magic, and I will guard City A for you. Our brothers have a deep bond. Anzhe's words contained 2 meanings. The people present watched the 2 sing together. In fact, only Anzhe and Luo-kun understood the meaning behind the words. A cunning flashed across Luo-kun's eyes, and he thought to himself, I will let you die without knowing how. I can kill you once, and the second time, I can still kill you. 238 Fierce Battle. Please subscribe. Fortunately, Anzhe reacted quickly, otherwise he and Luo-kun would have been pricked into prickly pears. Luo-kun, who was somewhat rejoiced after the catastrophe, was a little curious about how Anzhe knew in advance that there would be a hidden weapon coming out. Anzhe looked at Luo-kun, who was full of thirst for knowledge, and could only explain lightly. When I pulled out the secret compartment, there was a silk thread in it, and the moment I pulled it out, the entire secret compartment was dragged backwards. That's why I knew there would be a hidden weapon coming out. But I didn't expect it to be such a low-quality hidden weapon. At the end, Anzhe couldn't help but sneer. Luo-kun looked at Anzhe in front of him, a little helpless. Just after 730, Luo-kun and Anzhe had just dealt with this sudden episode. Lu Wei heard a voice calling for the 2 of them. The person in power, and Junshi. I found a few fragments. But I don't know if it's that one. Hearing this, Luo-kun and Anzhe immediately walked towards Lu Wei's direction, but they saw the marks of needles piercing the ground around Lu Wei. From a distance, it looks like a difficult road full of thorns. Lu Wei raised his head when he heard the footsteps, and happened to see Luo-kun and Anzhe swallowing their saliva, a little puzzled. With the number of needles on the ground, even if the 2 of them are prepared, they may not be able to escape unscathed. But Lu Wei did it. Luo-kun never expected that he would cultivate such an excellent undercover agent. At the same time, I'm glad I didn't give up on him. Luo-kun and Anzhe looked at the 5 or 6 ancient books in Lu Wei's arms. Even knowing the great achievements of everyone in the Lu family, they couldn't help being a little dumbfounded. Looking through the books, none of them recorded what the 2 of them wanted. This made Luo-kun and Anzhe throw all these booklets on the ground in a somewhat dejected manner. Although these things are very precious, they are no different from waste paper for them. What's more, since the Lu family has such a rich background, they don't mind helping them share part of it. Anzhe and Luo-kun looked at the abandoned ancient books on the ground, and some evil thoughts were quietly sprouting. Without knowing it, Lu Wei continued to search for the remaining hidden compartments that had not been searched, and found an ancient book again. Just when Lu Wei took out the ancient book and wanted to call the two of them again, the breath of other people appeared. The powerful elemental aura gradually filled the small underground space along with the sound of messy footsteps. Luo-kun, Anzhe, and Lu Wei immediately mobilized their magical elements to prepare. After the masters of the Lu family discovered that all the hidden safety weapons in the underground darkroom had been triggered, they immediately began to investigate and found 10 loopholes in the external security, and immediately came to the vicinity of Shongshan. It was discovered that the rockery mechanism was opened. He avoided the blow by using magic, but at this time the masters of the Lu family came because of the movement, and almost immediately, a crowd of people surrounded him. Those people scrambled to rub shoulders one after another and looked forward. Luo-kun and Anzhe were standing in the middle like pets in an acrobatic troupe for people to watch. In an instant, a majestic and powerful force spread bit by bit. Anzhe subconsciously tightened the weapon in his hand, secretly manipulating the skills. The masters of the Lu family really did not disappoint, just judging from the momentum that is spreading now, that's a tough bunch to deal with. Luo-kun and Anzhe didn't dare to take it lightly. The masters of the Lu family pushed each other. Anzhe yelled, "We came here by mistake, we wanted to put Mr. Lu, but we didn't expect to enter the dark room by mistake. It was a misunderstanding, so I won't bother you." Inspiring teachers and mobilizing crowds. The rest of the people looked at each other in blank dismay, not knowing how to react, but a middle-aged man who looked dignified and majestic was the first to react, and said word by word, "Dare to ask the military commander why he is looking for my old man Li." Anzhe pondered for a while, and now he had to make up a convincing reason, otherwise, he was afraid that unnecessary trouble would be caused. Thinking of this, Anzhe said lightly, "Some time ago, Mr. Lu and I met, and we agreed to establish an alliance between the Lu family, the descendants of the Li family represented by Luo-kun, and my help. But somehow, what Mr. Lu said he came out, but he didn't take any action. We summoned him several times, but Mr. Lu still hasn't seen him for a long time. Today, we happen to be free, so we came here to see how Mr. Lu is doing." What Anzhe said in 2.9 is true. This is indeed what happened, but it was used by Anzhe as an excuse. Up to now, he can only rely on this to deceive them for the time being. The middle-aged man's eyes turned straight, and a strange look slowly fell on Anzhe and Luo-kun. With the current power and martial arts of the Lu family, they are absolutely no match for them. Since this so-called military advisor they have worked so hard to find a reason, so he can only give them a step down. The middle-aged man glanced at them resentfully, and then made a gesture. 239 evenly matched. Please subscribe. Luo-kun arranged for Anzhe to live in a villa with an excellent location, and Anzhe didn't shirk it. The whole world has heard about Anzhe moving into City A one after another. The celebrity, the fact that Tamura Shigaraki was beheaded casually without any effort has long been praised by countless people, and it has become more and more fermented, and the butterfly effect has been blown. What's more, Anzhe won the favor of those people by virtue of his real ability, and Anzhe endured all the praise and respect with peace of mind. Anzhe is not in a hurry, anyway, he doesn't have a serious place to stay. In short, if Luo-kun doesn't hand over the earth-type magic, Anzhe will definitely not do it no matter what. Concession. 09. Grandmaster, Mr. Luo invites you. A man dressed like a servant carefully observed Anzhe's expression step by step. The corners of Anzhe's mouth were slightly pursed, not taking it seriously. "Mr. Luo, please. Did he say what it is?" Anzhe dragged the end of the voice so long that most people would only feel trembling when they heard it. The servant hardly dared to look directly into Anzhe's eyes, and lowered her head timidly. Anzhe smiled lightly. "Okay, I haven't seen you for a few days and I want to catch up with my brother." Luo-kun was sitting on the desk. Luo-kun, people in the world used to call him Mr. Luo, and he always showed the best respect to this so-called Mr. Luo. When Luo-kun was 16 years old, he single-handedly turned the entire city of upside down. At that time, the real power holder was still in the Li family, and the Li family held the actual power of the entire city. And Luo-kun, the adopted son of the Li family, is deeply loved by Mr. Li. Although he is an adopted son, Mr. Li is more caring than his own children. Some people even rumor that Mr. Li has made a will to transfer the inheritance, half of it is left to Luo-kun, and the rest is given to his own children. As soon as the message came out, the entire Li family was in chaos. No matter how Mr. Li explained it, the members of the Li family only believed the rumors. There was no other way. Mr. Li had no choice but to hand it over to Luo-kun's company temporarily, and promised that it would only be handed over to Luo-kun, this company. The members of the Li family certainly didn't believe it. The whole Li family united and began to gradually rob Mr. Li of his power. Mr. Li was so angry with his son and grandson that he was directly hospitalized and unconscious. At the critical moment, when the doctor asked them whether to save or not, the entire Li family chose not to save them. The little Luo-kun deeply saw all of this bit by bit in his own eyes. At that time, Luo-kun swore that he would avenge Mr. Li and take everything that belonged to Mr. Li. Get them all back. At that time, Anzhe and Luo-kun knew each other, and Anzhe deeply sympathized with Luo-kun's experience. The two hit it off right away, and it didn't take long for them to recognize each other as brothers, and their relationship became very good for a while. However, one day Luo-kun told Anzhe that his comprehensive revenge plan was about to start slowly. Anzhe stood firmly on Luo-kun's side, and the two decided to discuss the matter of revenge. At that time, Anzhe felt that if there is one person who can take care of himself with all his heart, if he chooses to stand by him without hesitation when he is in dire straits, then it must be Luo-kun, so Anzhe gave all his trust to Luo-kun. However, when Luo-kun took revenge, Anzhe did not think that Anzhe had become part of the revenge plan. Luo-kun used Anzhe as a bait, and the Li family members mobilized. When the matter came to light, Luo-kun he has already taken the top spot in City A. However, when all the bloody truths were revealed, Anzhe was also investigated by the Li family. When the Li family threatened Luo-kun with Anzhe's life, Luo-kun did not take any action. Only later did Anzhe know that he was a pawn under Luo-kun's hands from beginning to end, and this pawn didn't realize his identity until the chess game was about to be played 560 times. At that time, Anzhe made up his mind, no matter what, Luo-kun's villainous behavior, if there is a chance, he must let Luo-kun appreciate the feelings he experienced at that time. Brother, you're here. Luo-kun patted Anzhe's shoulder. Anzhe was made uncomfortable by the sudden move, and stepped back unconsciously. What do you want from me? Anzhe's voice seemed to be in a bottomless ice cave. Luo-kun smiled frankly. What are you calling me? In the past, you still chased after me and called me brother. Why did you become so unfamiliar after seeing me this time? Anzhe covered his mouth, but his thoughts had already turned back and forth, and he said lightly, Luo-kun, do you still remember what I did when you told me your overall plan at that time? Luo-kun was stunned for a moment, then smiled awkwardly. I remember, of course I remember. 240 Letting go. Please subscribe. Anzhe has always been a person who values love and righteousness. Similarly, when Anzhe held a heavy heart, Anzhe also expected that person to properly put away his heavy heart and give back. Luo-kun's heart became a little uneasy for some reason, so he said lightly, did you already know everything? When the words came to his lips, Luo-kun felt regretful. If the bloody truth was torn apart so early, then the deal is done, but if the other party is determined, there is no room for turning back. However, whether it is Luo-kun or Anzhe, they are both people who want to save face. They are both stubborn, but it is actually impossible for anyone to be subdued at will. Anzhe didn't expect that Luo-kun could tell the truth so casually. With the foreshadowing before, on the surface it was still in a state of peace, but gradually, a rift would definitely arise in his heart. Anzhe glanced at Luo-kun intriguingly. The rare Luo-kun's expression turned out to be very calm, and finally told the truth, which was much better than before when he had a heart that he couldn't put down. Of course I know, I can understand your indifference, but I don't understand why you stabbed me in the end. Anzhe's words were without a trace of emotion. Since then, Anzhe has no longer expressed his sincerity to anyone at will, and believes in someone casually. At that time, Anzhe managed to escape from the hands of the Li family. However, the one who was hunted down was not the Li family, but Luo-kun's people. Anzhe still hasn't been able to figure out why he drew his sword against a brother from the past. Could it be that the feelings he had worshipped before were all fake? If it were now, I would still choose to continue to do it. After the death of Mr. Li, I went crazy. I couldn't think of anything other than revenge. Anyone can be my target. Anyone can be a chess piece for me to drive and use, and you are no exception. Luo-kun's eyes suddenly became cold. There is no emotion in the eyes. Yes, the last person who is not a person wearing a mask of hypocrisy. The moment the mask is finally torn off, it is actually a face that is almost rotten. Anzhe spoke suddenly, with a hint of color in his eyes. Then what about now? Do you really think that the two of us can be stationed in City A seamlessly? Luo-kun smiled. Do you know why I became a brother who worships you? Few people can share the same goals with me. At that time, only you understood the deepest ambition in my heart and supported me without complaint. Friendship, it's true, but the final disintegration was too thorough. Mr. Li was really good to me. I will always remember Mr. Li's great kindness and virtue to me. How dare those beasts of the Li family treat Mr. Li like this? If I don't avenge Mr. Li, am I still a human? There were tears in the corners of Luo-kun's eyes. Anzhe and Luo-kun were still brothers at that time, and they knew exactly what kind of blow the departure of Mr. Li had on Luo-kun. The anxiety of being unable to change the status quo, as well as the deep sense of powerlessness and monstrous hatred carried on Luo-kun's body. If it hadn't been for the sudden departure of Mr. Li, Luo-kun would definitely not have become what he is now. What's more, Luo-kun later took charge of the entire City A, and the various forces in City A were intertwined and complicated, and they were constantly linked. If she still had the soft and waxy look before, she couldn't hide her thoughts, and she didn't know how Duan Ran died. Anzhe suddenly understood the reason why Luo-kun turned into such a look that even Anzhe couldn't recognize. However, the bloody betrayal was still in front of him. Anzhe clearly remembered that at that time, Anzhe was unwilling to believe it anyway. Luo-kun planned this chess game, but why not believe the evidence in front of him? Anzhe said lightly, in this life, you can't continue to be friends with me. The only purpose I came this time is to get the earth magic in your hands. After I get the earth magic to garrison City A for you, I won't stay any longer. Quote. Luo-kun smiled, and after a while he said calmly, it's good or bad, I hope that in the rest of our lives, we can clear up our previous suspicions and not be involved in this hopeless power struggle. Anzhe also laughed, and patted Luo-kun's shoulder heavily. Lu Qianzhao's kun also hugged him heavily. Although they know that they can never go back to the past, they will still be involved in it for mutual benefit. As the old saying goes, there is no eternal villains, only eternal interests. Did you bring the earth magic? Anzhe looked at Luo-kun and asked. Luo-kun smiled, and took out the solitary copy that he had prepared in his package. Originally, he was thinking of adding a strong ingredient to this solitary copy, which could hold Anzhe in his hands for him to drive, but somehow yes, Luo-kun is actually a little bit hesitant to do it now. Anzhe had already seen his thoughts, and said lightly, give it to me. 241 Magic Fusion. Please subscribe. After careful consideration, Luo-kun still decided to be honest with each other. Anzhe jokingly asked, you didn't add something to this lonely copy, did you? A little bit of seriousness. Luo-kun waved his hand and said, how come? Anzhe took over the earth magic in Luo-kun's hands, and has already fully invested in this exercise. Earth magic has always been profound, and if you don't give it a few days to ponder it, you will never be able to understand the mystery. Luo-kun consciously retreated behind the door. Anzhe didn't even hear Luo-kun's farewell. There are complicated mantras in the scriptures, and every stroke seems to reveal endless mysteries. Anzhe followed the mantras on the solitary book and practiced step by step according to the movements, but every time Anzhe thought that he was about to master this magic book sometimes, but often give him a blow to the head. Anzhe felt that 447 felt that the surging water magic and fire magic in his body were incompatible at this time. Originally, it would take a lot of energy to appease these two magics in his body every day. Now, Anzhe wanted to practice earth magic again, which was not an easy task in the first place. If you go against the sky, your life will be slaughtered by me. Anzhe muttered something unknown, and then the gestures on his body began to float regularly. Soon, a cyclone appeared around Anzhe, and the cyclone was crazily approaching the center of the vortex. Anzhe's hair stood up because he was practicing earth-type magic. Anzhe closed his eyes tightly, and the surging cultivation on his body almost made him unable to control himself. Past. Anzhe's body is like thousands of ants crawling over bit by bit. Countless ants are nibbling on Anzhe's body one after another. Anzhe is in unbearable pain, because of the magic in his body. For a while Anzhe seems to have fallen into an endless ice cave, and at another moment, Anzhe's body was unbearably hot, and there was no transition between these two states at all. Anzhe hugged his head. I only felt as if there was a voice yelling non-stop so that I couldn't stop, and Generation's body was trembling because of the severe pain. Ah! With a yell, the majestic cyclone just now gradually turned into dust. Anzhe's mind gradually calmed down, and the pain still remained in his body. Originally, cultivating earth-type magic is not a difficult task. However, I already have magic of two attributes in me. Even, whether it is water-type magic or fire-type magic, I have cultivated to a state of perfection. At this time, if you want to forcibly practice earth magic, you must go against the sky, and you must practice slower than others, but so what? If you want to become the supreme power, you must do things that ordinary people can't do, and you must endure things that ordinary people can't bear. F. And Anzhe breathed out lightly, and his mind finally gradually returned to tranquility. The little bit of improvement in earth magic on his body just now gradually began to seep into his skin. This is a brand new feeling. Anzhe only felt that after practicing, his body seemed to be relaxed like never before. It seemed that a warm current flowed through his body gradually from top to bottom, and a warm feeling gradually invaded his whole body. Anzhe calmed down his emotions, held back his emotions, and reopened the mysterious book. For a moment, Anzhe was almost shocked by the incisive and vivid magic in the whole book. This kind of magic has such powerful power. If the evidence is based on his own water magic, fire magic, and earth magic, Anzhe is sure that there are only a handful of people in the whole world who can fight against it. This is a supreme power that is unmatched. Anzhe began to practice the magic of the earth system again, and felt more and more painful, but every time after the completion of the practice, there would always be a warm and jade-like feeling on his body, and this feeling gradually repaired the blood in his body invisibly. Some cuts and traumas. Anzhe gritted his teeth tightly. No matter how painful it was, he forcibly endured it. The water element and the fire element are already in conflict. Under such a situation, Anzhe could only force himself to settle down. There seemed to be a wave of different breaths in the dantian. Anzhe instantly bent his body, and suddenly a mouthful of scalding blood spat out from his mouth. If the guess is correct, it is the result of the counterattack of the forces in Anzhe's body. Now Anzhe can only be more careful, otherwise it will be too late to regret if he goes crazy. Thinking in this way, Anzhe gradually calmed down his anxious mood, slowly breathed a sigh of relief, warned himself lightly, and then disturbed the breath in his body again, calming himself down bit by bit, letting the three strands of magic gradually blend together. With the borrowing effect of earth magic, water magic and fire magic are gradually neutralized. 242 The City Lord's Mansion is a guest. Please subscribe. After this incident, it is well known that Anzhe is the military behind the City Lord Luo-kun. At the same time, Anzhe was sitting cross-legged in the room, as if all the turmoil in the outside world was not caused by him, and it also had nothing to do with him. During this period of time, Anzhe's cultivation has greatly improved. Earth magic, water magic and fire magic are in Anzhe's body at the same time, which makes Anzhe's cultivation improve rapidly. But the balance of these three elements also made Anzhe bother to study for a long time. Also because of this incident, the relationship between Anzhe and Luo-kun has gradually improved. The two seem to have let go of the previous things and abandoned all the unhappiness. When Luo-kun was dealing with trivial matters in the city, a piece of remarks about the relationship between him and Anzhe came into Luo-kun's eyes. Luo-kun frowned. He didn't like this kind of articles that openly talked about himself. Just when he was preparing to draft an announcement prohibiting the people in the city from gossiping too much, the sound of thousands of footsteps disrupted Lu Kun's rhythm. A little dissatisfied, he raised his head, but saw the attendant below standing in front of him tremblingly, and Anzhe behind him stood there with a big face, looking at him for a moment. Luo Kun rubbed his forehead with a headache. Because Anzhe is his behind-the-scenes strategist outside, the balance between the two originally hostile is gradually broken. Anzhe Wuxing's rights in the city gradually expanded. Junxian took the precious time to practice and came here to discuss something with the city lord. Luo Kun emphasized the word, Junxi, to express his dissatisfaction. But Anzhe doesn't seem to care. This made Luo Kun feel powerless as if his fist hit the cotton. I have a plan to tell you, but the premise is that you need to trust me. After Anzhe finished speaking, he looked at the attendant leading the way meaningfully. Although Luo Kun gritted his teeth, Nei's curiosity prompted him to wave away the attendant. Anzhe opened his mouth slowly after the attendant had walked away completely. I don't know if Lord Luo has heard of a treasure. What treasure? Tell me about it. This treasure carries the 5 kinds of magic of gold, wood, water, fire, and earth without collapsing. It can filter out these 5 different magics one by one and release them. It can also perfectly and accurately integrate different kinds of magic. Release. When Anzhe said this, he paused for a moment, carefully observing Luo Kun's eyes. After confirming that there was a huge curiosity behind the haze in his eyes, he continued with confidence. Once this treasure is completed, there will be an absolutely insurmountable protective shield in the city. In this way, the status of Luo City Lord will naturally be much more stable. That's right. But you have worked so hard to help me, what can you get? Or, what is your real purpose? Luo Kun's eyes narrowed slightly, and he looked dangerously at the seemingly harmless man and beast looking down at him. Anzhe who salutes. Anzhe heard this, slowly straightened up, and looked at Luo Kun above him dangerously. Indeed, as City Lord Luo said, and Mo has an Mo's purpose. But the purpose is nothing more than a little bit of selfishness. What is your selfishness? Luo Kun looked at Anzhe with even more dangerous eyes. There was a strange atmosphere quietly circulating between the two. Luo Kun thought of thousands of Anzhe's goals in his heart, but just watched Anzhe quietly, waiting for him to speak. I believe that Lord Luo has also seen what the people in the city have said about the Lord Nen. To be honest, and is very intoxicated by the current atmosphere of being admired and loved. Therefore, it is natural to help Lord Luo. Just help An himself. 0. Seeking flowers. Oh, is it just such a simple reason? Of course I dare not lie to the city lord. Luo Kun looked at Anzhe's appearance, the shadow in his eyes drifted away a little. He didn't believe what Anzhe said, and even said that he could find no less than 10 loopholes in it based on his own understanding of Anzhe. But he still didn't break it. Since that's the case, where is the treasure, please advise Anzhe. Luo Kun's tone softened a lot, which seemed to meet Anzhe's goal. As a city lord, Luo Kun could no longer be satisfied with his current status. He wants everyone to submit to him. His strong ambition drives him to selectively ignore Anzhe's potential threats, and to achieve his goals at all costs. This treasure is not located anywhere, but requires the city lord to gather heroes from all walks of life to manufacture it. Please have a look at the blueprint of this thing. Luo Kun looked at the drawing with some excitement, as if he saw everything he dreamed of beckoning to him slowly. Immediately discussed the specific matters with Anzhe, and quickly posted Hero's posts in the city, inviting all magic masters to come to the city lord's mansion as guests. A rare opportunity, many powerful magicians came before Luo Kun. After drinking for 3 rounds, Luo Kun stated his purpose, but few people responded. Several people stood up to protest, and after Anzhe quickly cleared up, the scene fell into silence again. After the Hongmen banquet, the matter of forging treasures was decided by Luo Kun and Anzhe's tough methods. And gradually put on the agenda. 244 Conspiracy. Please subscribe. Selena Gomez posts powerful bikini then and now. More. 731. 183. 244. Zhao Feihao's words made the 3 of them fall into silence. The rule that Cydia does not allow infighting has existed for a long time. So they dare not make any moves lightly. Aside from this, I heard that Anzhe from Mr. An's family has always been Luo Kun's behind-the-scenes strategist. Today, I heard people talking about Anzhe helping Luo Kun avoid various dangers, and the wisdom and confidence in making plans are really amazing. I'm impressed with An's family. After Lu Zaishan finished speaking with some eccentricity, he kept staring at Anping. Zhao Feihao also quickly reacted when he was speaking, and stared at Anping together. The forces that have been rooted in City A for centuries have already established their own mature intelligence networks. Even if not, the scope of influence of this matter has already made them have to know. Anping looked at the sudden questioning of the two, although he already had a premonition, but such an unexpected occurrence still made him feel a little cold sweat dripping from the corners of his forehead. Looking at Zhao Feihao and Lu Zaishan with an apologetic smile, Anping had already scolded Anzhe thousands of times in his heart. Mr. Lu, Mr. Zhao, don't get excited. Although this Anzhe is said to be my An family's surname, it is definitely not from my An family. Oh, by saying that, Mr. N, is he trying to get rid of himself or An's family? Lu Zaishan's tone became a little dissatisfied, and he began to exert his strength secretly. Mr. Lu is just joking. Anzhe is indeed not in the family tree of An's family. It's just a foreigner with the same surname. Why did Mr. Lu hurt the peace of the 3 families at such a critical juncture because of this foreigner? As Anping said, he secretly exerted his strength. Although he really intends to calm things down and use this to declare that there is no relationship between Anzhe and Anzhe. But it doesn't mean that Anping can be pinched as a soft persimmon. Zhao Feihao looked at the two people who were fighting each other, and knew clearly in his heart that this might be the result of this matter. After the three people who didn't talk about what happened, they all returned to their own strengths, and they unanimously stepped up their guard. 5 days after this peaceful day before the storm, just as Luo-kun and Anzhe came out of the basement, the three families of An, Lu, and Zhao gathered together again. Anping said seriously the moment Zhao and Lu entered the door. In the past 5 days, the An family has investigated the reason why Luo-kun and Anzhe widely posted hero-s posts. Zhao Feihao and Lu Zaishan both looked gloomy, showing that they had also investigated the whole story. The three of them looked at each other, and they all saw a trace of fear in each other's eyes. Now that killing heaven was forged by Luo-kun and Anzhe without permission, should we make this matter public? Lu Zaishan was the first to lose his composure and proposed a plan. No. The existence of slaying heaven itself cannot be announced. And even if they do, it may not be that they will stop. On the contrary, they will startle the snake. As soon as Anping's voice fell, Zhao Feihao nodded in agreement and added. We still don't know where Luo-kun locked those warriors. Once they change places ahead of time, we are likely to fall short. The silent eyes of the three made the air anxious. Just when Lu Zaishan couldn't help but want to leave, Anping suddenly said, or we will. There was no voice from behind, but the movement of gently sweeping his neck like a knife with his hand was enough to explain his thoughts. At night, 3 groups of people wearing different black night clothes gathered in the shade of a willow tree downstairs in Luo-kun's house, exchanged glances with each other, and sneaked into Luo-kun's room one after another quietly. The 3 kept looking for Luo-kun's bedroom, but met Anzhe who came out of the conference hall on the way. He looked at the men in black in front of him, thinking they were Luo-kun's subordinates, and was a little dissatisfied. Why, I'm talking to Mr. Luo-kun, do you still need to remind me of Mr. Luo-kun's gold? These men in black from different forces looked at each other without making a sound, but Luo-kun's voice came from behind Nt. 620. What's the matter, Anzhe? Why are you yelling outside the chamber? Although this is a private place, it is too unreasonable. Luo-kun's face slowly protruded from behind Anzhe, following Anzhe's silent but slightly angry eyes. He looked at the group of men in black in front of him. These people are. Kill. With an order, the man in black immediately used all kinds of magic to throw Anzhe and Luo-kun. After confirming that the 2 people in front of them were the targets, they let go of their hands and feet. Anzhe also reacted quickly when they said the kill word, isolating the danger outside the protective cover in time. In the process of constant fighting between the two sides, Anfin's mastery of Zhu Wusu has also been significantly improved unconsciously. But within 30 minutes, Anzhe and Luo-kun caught everyone together. The two exchanged glances, and both saw the clear look in each other's eyes. 245 assassins. Please subscribe. Thanks to these assassins, Anzhe has learned more than half of his earth magic, and the 3 elements have finally reached a delicate balance. Just when Anzhe was about to chop off everyone's heads, Luo-kun's hand suddenly appeared from the side to stop him. With a warm smile on his face, Luo-kun looked down at these obviously unwilling but dejected assassins, and probably guessed who belonged to which faction from the dark lines on different clothes. Having made up his mind, Luo-kun whispered something in Anzhe's ear. Let Anzhe cast complicated glances at him frequently. You really are a pervert. Thank you for the compliment. Then it will be hard for you to deal with the aftermath, Mr. N. Stretching his waist, Luo-kun waved to Anbang and left the place. Only left An Generation standing there. Gritting teeth. When it was still daylight the next day, the corpses of some of the assassins sent by the An family and the Zhao family were piled up in their respective doors. All the corpses had their heads cut off without exception, and traces of the earth element remained on some of the cut marks on the heads. The An family and the Zhao family were very angry. Anping and Zhao Feihao came to the place where they had a meeting earlier, waiting for Lu Zaishan, who had not come for a long time. But Luo-kun was waiting with a smile on his face. The 2 patriarchs are very interested. They don't pay attention to the profit and loss of the industries in their respective forces, and whether their subordinates are safe or not. It's really a good pleasure to watch the scenery and drink tea here. Slowly walking up to the 2 of them, looking at their blushing faces because of anger, Luo-kun smiled brighter, poured himself a cup of tea, took a sip, and couldn't help but let out an admiration. Kumquat oolong. Sure enough, the selection and brewing techniques of the tea selection and brewing methods of a Cheng's forces with centuries-old background are really unmatched, Wen Ku and Ji Ku said. 6. I don't know what's the reason for the people in power to come here. We invited the Lu family, thinking that the people in power are still young, so they probably wouldn't like the party of us elderly people. I wonder where the head of the Lu family is. Of course I accepted my invitation, and I'm going to go to my house to taste tea. Luo-kun glanced at the sudden change in the expressions of the 2, put down the teacup calmly, and coughed lightly. Anzhe slowly opened the door and entered the room, holding a huge black box in his hand. Last night, the 2 of you still remembered to visit your lord at night. I am so grateful. I couldn't sleep all night, so I left a few visitors on my own initiative, so I returned some of them to you, and I hope you don't dislike them. After Luo-kun drew Anping and Zhao Feihao's attention back, Anzhe quickly opened the box. The box is full of bottles and cans of all kinds. The jars contained naked eyeballs and various internal organs. The eyeballs and internal organs seem to be bubbling in the sufficient formalin, and they are swimming freely after breaking away from the shackles of various rules and regulations. The other end of the box was filled with all kinds of human skins. The master's different expressions are also vividly engraved on the skin. What he hears is not as good as what he sees, and what he sees makes an Anzhe two patriarchs terrified, and they dare not do anything wrong again. At the same time, the Lu family also received the same black package. The difference was that there was a letter that was also as black as pitch in the package. Lu Zaishan picked up the letter tremblingly, which contained Luo Kun's vigorous yet gentle handwriting. Dear Patriarch of the Lu family, I believe that you will be a little confused after receiving this express delivery, like an elk lost in the heavy fog. Then, please let me light the lamp from the road to success for you and guide you in the direction. Looking forward to cooking with you on Hero S. A person who can become a leader in a big force can never be a fool. He is very clear about the intention of forming an alliance conveyed in Luo Kun's letter. Although unwilling, but the various condolences made him have to be willing. Lu Zaishan immediately tidied up his appearance and called all the external personnel and internal senior management personnel of the Lu family to hold a meeting to announce the result of the alliance between the Lu family and Luo Kun. Before anyone could utter rebuttals and dissatisfaction, Lu Zaishan asked the driver to drive him to Luo Kun's residence, Hero S non-stop. In this regard, Luo Kun and the Lu family established an alliance smoothly and quickly, and Luo Kun's power gained a big boost. Meanwhile, Anzhe made a wonderful new discovery while continuing to practice. He found that the three magics of water, fire, and earth that he possessed, Goodlees, had a wonderful chemical reaction in his body, which was not only about creating a balance in his body, so that he no longer felt overwhelmed by the conflicting elements, discomfort. Most importantly, he can use one element while using another. That is to say, he can release 2 or even 3 different spells in the same time, suppressing the villains as much as possible, and increasing his chances of survival during the battle. Of course, this is not what he can do now. Anzhe, who quickly calmed himself down, began to keep trying and practicing. Get more proficient as you practice. 246 Morse code. Please subscribe. Selena Gomez posts powerful bikini then and now. More. 841. 210. 280. Fire magic, earth magic, and water magic are intertwined and entangled in Anzhe's body. This ingenious balance makes Anzhe's body feel completely moist. Anzhe brushed his palms contemptuously. Up to now, the pre-prepared plan for coming to City A has been quietly unfolded. If you continue to proceed step by step, if Anzhe's guess is right, the final result will follow his own ideas little by little. Military Master, Mr. Luo invites you to come over. A female voice dressed as a maid sounded out of thin air. Anzhe got up slowly. Just right, this time is also the time to start his own plan. You're here. Luo Kun looked at Anzhe and said firmly. Anzhe nodded, and sat down on the seat next to Luo Kun. This seat has always been a seat that only the Supreme One can be lucky enough to sit on, and it has always represented the supreme power and glory. The Lu family has established an alliance with us, which is another great help for us. As for the two families, they will not act rashly for the time being. They are smart people and understand very well. Now that the situation is like this, they want to do some assassination. It's tantamount to courting death, and they shouldn't be so stupid. Anzhe's voice was cold, and he was just saying something, as if there were gusts of cold wind blowing here. Luo Kun smiled contemptuously. These jumping clowns, with our strength, we can completely ignore these people jumping around in front of us, but these forces are gradually gaining the upper hand by virtue of their numbers. I hope they are smart. 1 point, don't make any senseless struggles now. The views of the two coincided with each other, and they both believed that according to the current situation, those people would not be so stupid as to go straight to the point of the gun. AJED. When will our plan start? Anzhe pondered for a while, and said slowly. Luo Kun patted Anzhe's shoulder. You are really impatient, you have been like this since you were a child, Tien can't wait for anything. Anzhe couldn't help moving away, and said calmly, do you have any other plans? Luo Kun's eyes looked into the distance, and his thoughts were turning back and forth. The time has not come yet. I want to make these 3 forces in City A mess up and fall apart, making it difficult for them to unite again. Then, we will continue to break down one by one. Catch a turtle in a urn. Anzhe smiled brightly. It really was Luo Kun, and only Luo Kun could think of such a sinister trick. Even though he has become much more indifferent than before, he still can't think of such a sinister trick. Luo Kun originally planned to let Luo Kun own all the power of the champion in City A, which would be of great benefit to Luo Kun, and if Luo Kun grasped the actual rights of other families, then everything that followed would be of great help. Everything is under his control. How to start? Anzhe pondered for a while. It seems that it is not difficult to help Luo Kun to cause this matter, not to mention that you can also secretly insert some of these forces into your own hands and feet and take them for yourself. Luo Kun took out a pre-prepared document from a drawer under his desktop. The document was densely packed with various fonts. If Anzhe hadn't been friends with Luo Kun, he wouldn't have understood the handwriting on this document at all. If you guessed right, the font on the file is none other than Morse code. Morse code usually confirms the message through the sound and speed of fingers tapping knuckles. Often, a force secretly sends some clever undercover agents to steal information. At the same time, these undercover agents also have to bear the danger of life and death. In many cases, those undercover agents never came back after they were sent out. However, the ability of the undercover agents is outstanding. Otherwise, there would not be a steady stream of different people in power sending out under the circumstances that the undercover casualty rate is so high. Various undercover agents to steal information for themselves. Anzhe picked up the information on his own. All his thoughts were in the document, and the document was full of strings of numbers. In fact, this was already a translated message. Unless someone Luo-kun trusted, absolutely no information on this Morse code will be mastered. A series of numbers followed by a series of numbers. Anzhe was able to remain calm at first, but gradually, he became more and more shocked by the digital Morse code in the document. This document clearly states that the alliance of the Lu family has more conspiracies. The alliance established by the Lu family is actually a false alliance. They are still standing in the united front with the other two secretly, in order to fight against Luo-kun and Anzhe when they are taking it lightly. People are caught off guard and unable to parry. Anzhe frowned tightly. The current situation can be said to be caught in a dilemma. If the false flattery continues, then there is no guarantee that something will happen suddenly. On the other hand, if the truth is revealed, the matter will not be reversed. Room. Anzhe wrote the document in a desperate manner, and the two looked at each other for a while and still couldn't think of a solution, but Anzhe saw a more shocking message at the end of the document. 247 Luo-kun. Please subscribe. Anzhe looked at the serious but somewhat guilty Luo-kun in front of him, and couldn't help feeling a little bit emotional. I didn't expect him to value the spy's life so much. However, since they are on the same front now, they cannot but help. Okay, I will help you bring him back as safe as possible. After Anzhe finished speaking, Luo-kun's eyes seemed to emit infinite light. The look of complete trust and hopeful eyes really made Anzhe feel like he wanted to take his words back. Luo-kun didn't see what Anzhe was thinking, and asked him eagerly, then what shall we do now? You first tell me the name of the undercover agent sent to Lu's house, as well as the structural diagram of Lu's house, roughly where there are bodyguards, which places are blind spots for monitoring, and where there may be basements. Anzhe said a lot of words in a row, and Luo-kun found out more and more books and papers and stacked them on the desk as the objects in his mouth kept changing. After confirming that no other copywriting was needed, the two searched for various items on the table together. The things that were pulled out slowly piled up to the thickness of a small book, and several hours have passed. After memorizing all the Lu family's route maps, bodyguard shift time, and shift location, Luo-kun and Anzhe looked at each other and nodded together. The Lu family's undercover agent is Lu Wei. He is about 1.65 meters tall. He is a bit ugly but has the best hidden ability among all the people he has trained. Although his skills are not very good, he is more flexible. Thanks to him, I can get a lot. Intelligence. 1. Luo-kun looked into Anzhe's eyes and told him Lu Wei's features seriously. Anzhe will, these, in mind. Willow shoots on the moon, it is probably time for people to fall asleep. The vigilance of bodyguards will also be reduced a lot. Luo-kun and Anzhe brought a few people with good hiding ability to sneak into Lu's house. After the group successfully found Lu Wei didn't seem to have expected so many people to come to him. His expression was surprised for a moment, and then thanked instead. As an undercover agent, although Lu Wei didn't want to admit it, he already regarded himself as a dead person. People who work as undercover agents may be discovered at any time, and they may also be abandoned at any time. Therefore, Lu Wei, who was valued so much, was naturally very grateful. After Luo-kun made sure that Lu Wei hadn't been discovered, he got new information. Anzhe and the remnants of the earth magic book that he found out from Lu Wei are under the rockery behind Lu Wei. Anzhe and Luo-kun glanced at each other, telling everyone else to hide and stand by, ready to help in case of emergency. Everything was explained clearly. In order to prevent anyone from coming near the rockery, Lu Wei immediately prepared to take Luo-kun and Anzhe into the secret passage under the rockery. After Lu Wei ordered the two of them to step back for a while, he took out a small object like an infrared scanner from his pocket, aimed at an inconspicuous groove in the rockery, and pressed the button. Time passed by every minute and every second. Just when Luo-kun thought he had failed, there were suddenly two square marks on the lawn between him and Lu Wei. The lawn in the square slowly moved to both sides along the border line of the square, and a dark slope appeared under the lawn. The slope was full of artificially made narrow steps, constantly winding towards the barrenness inside. 0. Seeking flowers. Luo-kun swallowed back the question in his mouth, exchanged a glance with Anzhe, and stepped on the stairs one after another. Seeing this, Lu Wei hurriedly followed. The road below is very long and winding, like an endless corridor leading to hell. The three of them didn't know how long they walked before reaching the end. Bottom is not as magnificent as imagined, full of treasures handed down from generation to generation by the Lu family, and it doesn't even look like a little bit of huge power. The underground place is not very big, it is boxy like a room. Inside are the lattice shelves containing Chinese medicinal materials in the Chinese pharmacy. Although it looks like a display of Chinese herbal medicines, none of the owners believed in the medicinal materials inside. The different pungent smells contained in different types of Chinese medicinal materials do not exist in this small, airtight secret room at all. Therefore, the fragments they wanted to get must have been hidden in one of these hidden compartments. After making up their minds, the three started looking for their goals from 3 different directions. But the number of hidden compartments in a Chinese medicine rack is already huge, let alone several Chinese medicine racks. The completely difficult situation and the increasingly pressing time hang like a knife on the hearts of the three of them, and it is slowly falling. Just when Anzhe and Luo-kun found the last hidden compartment of a row of traditional Chinese medicine racks, an accident happened suddenly. When Anzhe drew out the last hidden space, he quickly said caution to Luo-kun beside him, and then quickly set up the protective cover. Several holes made of alloy suddenly appeared on the earth walls on both sides of Anzhe and Luo-kun, and sharp needles flew out of them and shot towards them. 248 Despair. Count Hebrew, what do you like about the work in this salon? Count Ogsig, who was chatting with each other, asked with a smile. Although I don't support any painter, Abir's landscape paintings can give me a good mood. Ha ha ha, Earl Hebrew thinks the same as me. The noble judges have the voting qualifications to select the top 3, and the rankings after the 3 are still judged by the 3 old people. Then the Earl of Hebrew and the Earl of Ogsig silently changed the first place, Moore, to the name of Obi. This is the reason why Julie was reluctant to draw herself before Moore. Even the nobles who don't know how to appreciate landscape paintings can speak clearly and logically. This also led to the unwritten rule that if one wants to win an award, one must draw a landscape painting. But the first place is actually not particularly important, because it is those nobles who are willing to support the painter to promote the painter's fame. June 43. So Moore made a bet with Ramba Miguel before, that Moore can win the prize in the salon, which means that Moore won the bet. First place. Abi. Second place. Moore. Third place. Julie. Not long after the judging result came out, the 3 old people said the result loudly. The voice should be blessed by magic power. It echoed for a long time in the whole salon exhibition. You didn't bring Julie here. Moore lamented and walked in front of Lamba Miguel, watching him holding the unknown girl by his hand. Although Moore guessed that he wanted to take Julie away in the salon, he would definitely be expected by Ramba Miguel. But he didn't expect Ramba Miguel to come here without bringing Julie in such a mess. Did you tell Julie what happened in advance? What do you mean? Facing Ramba Miguel's questioning, Moore responded in a puzzled manner. Ramba Miguel didn't say anything and stared at Moore's face. He shouldn't be lying. He can feel it. Moore really doesn't know what he said meaning. Such an extremely frightening thought made Lamba Miguel's clothes soaked in cold sweat for an instant. Hoo. As if confirming Ramba Miguel's bad thoughts, a gust of wind blew up the entire salon exhibition. How did Sandy plan in advance? Hubo felt the wind in awe, which was strong enough to blow all the paintings in the gallery. Ah! A horrified exclamation came, and when Hubo looked in the direction where Sandy should be staying, Sandy also shook her head and looked at Hubo suspiciously. It seems that the source of this wind it's not Sandy's cast. This feeling, it shouldn't be. Hubo looked to the other side of the window in astonishment. Outside the window of the salon exhibition, a black shadow emerged. It seemed that this was the reason for the sound of panic in the arena, and this strong wind came from the black shadow outside the window, forcing open the closed window. Boom. Finally, the wall on the side of the window fell down in response to the strength of the strong wind. Don't panic, we are members of the temple, and we will definitely buy time to stop this demon. Among the temple members of Candy's group, a priest stood up and roared loudly. However, this sentence did not achieve the effect of sedatives, and the people at the salon and exhibition fell into a scramble to escape. Evil. Devil. Hubo looked at the creature with a black shadow after the wall collapsed with a wry smile. No. If you insist on talking about a creature, you can't feel any anger at all. But you can clearly understand that this creature is definitely a demon. It really messed up Layla's plan completely. Coincidentally, all the incidents happened according to the plan. The big tree is rotten. The strong wind was caused by the constant incitement of the 2 wings behind the demonic creature. But what shocked Hubo even more was that the surrounding trees were all dead and withered. Not only the big tree itself, but even the fallen leaves and even the soil around the big tree turned purple. Don't panic. Said the same words as the temple personnel in Candy's group. The difference is that the people who fled in panic in the salon calmed down. Although the speed of escaping is still the same, it is no longer the panic seen before, and they are escaping in an orderly and efficient manner. Line up, and don't get close to this demon. The factor that calmed down the people in the field was that the guard soldiers from the Sansa Kingdom from the salon exhibition arrived in time. Hurry up. Why are you still staying here? During the time when Hubo was shocked and still, Layla had already pulled Sandy and ran in front of Hubo. Also pulling Hubo to prepare to escape. Where are Candy and Moore? Hubo asked, scanning the field. It's okay, the army has rushed over to support, and it's only a matter of time before this demon is defeated. Layla not only said to Hubo, but also said to Sandy who was at hand. Because Candy, as a believer in the temple, should give priority to assisting the army to fight against the demons in this emergency situation, so Candy can't leave now. Trust the army, this is just a phantom species, and the army of the Sansa Kingdom can easily destroy it. In short, let's find Moore and get out of here first. What Layla said was correct, the demon was surrounded by the army. Maybe there are many phantom species, and the army alone cannot resist. But in front of him is just a phantom species, and the phantom species is not the high-level demon in Toza Lyuri, it is the strength of the low-level demon that can win by numbers. Impossible. Impossible. At this moment, Moore and Ramba Miguel were also standing there, not fleeing like other nobles and ordinary civilians, and Ramba Miguel had an extremely shocked expression he kept muttering in his mouth. What's going on here? Unable to restrain himself, Moore grabbed Ramba Miguel's shoulder and questioned loudly. The reason for Ramba Miguel's appearance must be related to this demon, which made Moore feel more and more bad. What are you 3 doing again? Leave quickly. Although Sandy was very worried about Candy's situation, she still fled according to Layla's words. The 3 of them finally found Moore, Ramba Miguel and the girl in his hands during their escape. Don't. Because Ramba Miguel was holding the girl's left hand, Hubo pushed Moore in a hurry, and then pulled the girl's right hand to lead her away. Crack. The next moment, the 6 people stood still because of shock. No, it should be 5 people. It's the same scene as when Moore pulled Julie and broke Julie's arm. Because of Hu Bo's excessive force, the girl's arm was pulled off in the same way. But this girl is not like Julie, she didn't react at all when her arm was pulled off, and she didn't shed any blood at all. At this moment, the situation of Julie and what Moore said to him flashed in Hu Bo's mind. The girl in front of him, like Julie, is also a body made by Ramba Miguel. But the biggest difference of this girl is that she does not have a soul, which is why she is like a dead body, with a dead expression all the time. 249 soul. As if the gate had been opened, the severed right hand seemed to have undone some kind of seal, and began to move autonomously. Hand, why is the hand moving? Hu Bo looked in horror at the right hand that had been pulled off by him, and it was stirring up and down non-stop, which attracted Hu Bo's attention. Julie. Moore suddenly thought of a possibility, rushed to Hu Bo, grabbed his right hand and asked. The right hand looks like a scissors hand, which shows that this right hand is Julie's right hand. Ha ha ha. After his guess was affirmed, Moore laughed wildly. Then he took Julie's right hand and put it in his sleeve. Then Moore's face flushed with anger. Why would you do such a thing? To everyone's surprise, Moore rushed directly in front of Ramba Miguel. Without any mercy, he punched Ramba Miguel with all his strength, causing the latter to fall to the ground with a bang. Moore, stop. However, Moore did not stop, and continued to 09 exuding a tense momentum, stepped forward and raised Ramba Miguel, who had not resisted at all, and, bang, another punch with all his strength hit him in the face. Ramba Miguel's face was red, swollen and purple from Moore's beating, and blood was coughed up from the corner of his mouth. Hu Bo saw that the situation could not continue, so he stepped forward and grabbed Moore's arm, but even so, Moore's eyes were still full of wet and angry tears, and he still kicked Ramba Miguel's body. Stop. Hu Bo was cruel, and threw Moore to the ground in a grappling posture, clamped his hands and put his feet against his feet, making Moore unable to move. It's all my fault. Ramba Miguel let out a long mournful cry from his throat, and tears of regret flowed out. This scene made everyone feel extremely shocked by Ramba Miguel's current appearance. But when Moore continued to growl in grief and anger, Julie's right hand on his sleeve crawled out and crawled all the way to Moore's face. The next moment, Julie's right hand seemed to be comforting, stroking Moore's face. The tense aura on Moore's body disappeared, and the eyebrows that were raised in anger were now powerless to droop. After Hu Bo saw Moore calm down, he also sent him away. Hu Bo couldn't understand the situation in front of him at all. He used a magic potion that can extract and store the soul. Layla explained the specific reason to everyone, and after hearing Layla's words, Ramba Miguel was even more assiduous. It shows the meaning of loneliness and remorse. That is to say, Ramba Miguel put Julie's soul in his hand. Could it be? Hu Bo looked at Julie's right hand in horror, and then looked at the position of the corpse girl's severed hand. Taking a closer look, it was completely sticking. Julie's right hand to the corpse girl's right hand forcibly, and an extremely terrifying possibility flashed in Hu Bo's mind. That's right, Lamba should have cut off Julie's right hand, put Julie's soul into the right hand, and then sewed Julie's right hand to the corpse girl's hand. Layla said her guess with a gloomy expression. Hiss. Hu Bo, Sandy, and Candy couldn't help but gasp because of surprise when they heard it, and the three of them stared at Ramba Miguel at the same time waiting for his answer. As Layla conjectured, Muba Miguel silently nodded and admitted. The three people who heard the truth instantly ignited a flame called anger in their chests, and Hu Bo completely understood why Moore was so angry. How miserable and desperate Julie was at Ramba Miguel. Then where is Julie now? Hu Bo asked, taking a deep breath into his lungs to calm down the anger that also arose in him. In a secret room in my house. Why don't you hurry up and rescue Julie? Hu Bo said hastily. It's too late, I fell into the trap of that Yugoloth guy completely. While Ramba Miguel said this in despair, Hu Bo was also extremely shocked by the superior that his minister said. Gross demon. Lanba, you actually colluded with the devil. What's going on? The development of the matter was so strange that everyone was shocked that there was a shadow of the devil behind him. Even if I can develop a body like Julie's, the level of the soul is completely different from the body. I want to resurrect my daughter, but no matter what, I can't bring the dead Lily or the soon-to-be-revived the lost soul. Lamba Miguel stood up with difficulty, waving his hands and feet in an excited tone to vent the grievances he had been suffocating in his heart. When Lily died, Ramba Miguel happened to go to investigate the construction work in one of the territories. It was only 2 hours between the time he learned the news of Lily's critical illness and the time he rushed back in a hurry. When he finally arrived at home, he had already heard the bad news about Lily. This strange disease was so unexpected that a healthy person died in just a few minutes. And the only person who saw Lily's deathbed at that time was Lily's boyfriend Moore. It's a shame to say, but at that time Ramba Miguel couldn't help but hate Moore in his heart. Obviously even he, Lily's father, didn't have time to see the last scene of his lost daughter. In this way, it is impossible to know the origin and treatment of the strange disease, and it is impossible to study the method of soul recovery. Ramba Miguel found that his heart had been swallowed by darkness, so that in order to revive Lily, he would do anything to revive her daughter, Lily, even if he made a deal with the devil. Demons are best at tempting humans to sell their souls to them, so in a way, demons can solve soul problems that humans cannot solve. I paid the price of using the magic potion to catalyze the maturation of the White Lotus and the method of creating a body. I traded with the Yugoloth demon in exchange for the awakening of Lily's soul. Now it seems that I have been completely deceived, which is ridiculous and pathetic. Lanba Miguel muttered with empty eyes, his expression became more lonely, making him look like an old man in his middle age. White Lotus. Hearing Ramba Miguel's words, Hubo's heart was as shocked as a rough sea. Hubo noticed the White Lotus on Julie's clothes before. What is the relationship between the White Lotus and the Yugoloth? Suddenly a possibility flashed in Hubo's mind. When Sandy met Julie for the first time in the dormitory, Sandy suddenly showed a painful expression. With the addition of the crucial word, soul, will the series of ultimate goals of the Yugoloth demon all point to the sixth demon king in Sandy's body? For a moment, Hubo felt that the possibility of this thought was getting bigger and bigger, which made his frightened forehead break out in cold sweat. What's the matter? Sandy, who was next to Hubo, asked worriedly when she saw Hubo's appearance. Quote. Hubo hadn't finished speaking, when suddenly the same shadow appeared, and a loud laugh interrupted Hubo, who was about to say something. I didn't lie to you at all. Yugoloth. Seeing the figure appearing in the shadow, Hubo couldn't help shivering. Goosebumps appeared on his body, and he stared at the creature tensely. This Yugoloth whom he killed in half. .250 Windblade Barrier. Although we demons like to do fraud-related behaviors, the core of the transaction is that we demons can't cheat. The Yugoloth demon smiled fiercely, and said to Ramba Miguel to himself, there is no such thing as pay attention to the hostile gazes of Hubo and the others around them. What's the meaning? Ha, where's your arrogant look before? After all, you're just a poor creature dragged into the abyss by desire. The Yugoloth said with exaggerated movements, contemptuous of the sluggish Ramba Miguel. The content that made Ramba Miguel despair. Julie's soul is the soul of your daughter Lily. Impossible, impossible, impossible. Lamba Miguel murmured dully after hearing what the Yugoloth said. What's impossible? I revived your daughter Lily's soul very reputably. The Yugoloth demon looked at Ramba Miguel jokingly, as if he enjoyed playing with others. After a pause, he continued, it's just that I didn't wake up Lily's memory at the same time. Instead, I let the memory sleep in the soul forever. Maybe sometimes fragments of this memory will be aroused, but overall said that this soul has no memory. The Yugoloth demon explained so clearly that Ramba Miguel and more fully understood what he meant. Julie is Lily, Lily who has lost her memory. In this way, why Julie drew that painting can also be explained, because Julie coincidentally triggered a memory fragment deep in her soul. Ramba Miguel lay on the ground like a marionette with a broken string and cried loudly. Does this mean that he cut off his daughter's hand with his own hands? And he still ignored her at that time. The feeling of despair and fear, not to mention that she has been looking at Julie with such eyes all the time, made Julie feel no trace of happiness at all. Deadly sword dance. Hubo replaced Moore, who had taken over his sanity because of anger, and swung his staff to violently attack the Yugoloth. Swish, swish, swish. However, all of this was useless. When Hubo's rod was waved on Yugoloth's body, it was like a mass of gas being cut, but the total amount remained the same. Hubo, right. The vengeance of killing half of my body hasn't come to you yet, but you will soon feel the same despair as this guy. The magic power of the breath firmly blocked Hubo's attack. Hubo's staff collided with the black magic group, and the black magic group gradually appeared to evaporate and disappear. The feast has begun, and human beings are still too comfortable now, so let the Sansa Kingdom, the strongest country of human beings, feel the despair. The Yugoloth demon took out the White Lotus in one fell swoop. A strange light lit up in its hands, and the next moment Sandy crouched on the ground uncontrollably. Why is the White Lotus in your hand? Lamba Miguel looked at this scene in shock. He had obviously laid many defenses against demons around the secret room. What do you think? Immediately afterwards, the figure of the Yugoloth demon became unreal, and the whole person seemed to turn into a shadow and disappear again. Damn it. Black. Ramba Miguel thought of this possibility for a moment, and shouted the name through gritted teeth. He did arrange a lot of defenses against demons, but Black, the guy under the second prince, is not a demon. And he is also a shadow warrior, who can enter the secret room invisibly without disturbing the attendants. Then remove all the defenses against demons, so that the Yugoloth demon can reach the comatose Julie without hindrance. Leave you a little gift. The Yugoloth demon laughed, and then disappeared, replaced by a cloud of black dots in the sky. What's that? The people of San Kukensai thought in amazement after seeing the strange scene in the sky. Hurry up and hide in the shelter, the devil is coming. Not long after, Bishop Eno of the temple urgently issued a danger alert. Wow, the people of St. Kukensai cried for help in horror, and one by one swarmed to the shelter. Sandy. Ever since the Yugoloth demon took out the White Lotus, there has been an abnormal situation in Sandy. Suddenly Sandy stood up abruptly, sending out a series of sharp wind blades to the surroundings. Earth wall technique. Hubo quickly chanted several earthen walls to block the attacks of these wind blades, but Sandy's original purpose was just to prevent others from stopping her next move. At this moment when Hubo was singing defense, Sandy has already sang a pair of wind wings at some point. Hubo was even more shocked that half of Sandy's blue hair was hit. This pure white color is it is exactly the same as the white of the White Lotus. Sandy was about to incite the wind wings to fly away in the next moment, and when Hubo was eager to stop her, the scene that she showed when she woke up before appeared around Sandy. Open black lens bracket wind blade barrier close black lens bracket. The blade-like sharp wind blade surrounded Sandy, forcing Hubo to chant magic to resist this fierce attack. Hubo quickly sprinkled this on Sandy. Suddenly, Layla threw a bottle of magic potion to Hubo, and Hubo didn't think much about throwing the magic potion into the place where Sandy was with all his strength. Crack. The potion was chopped into powder by the wind blade, but the liquid of the magic potion sprinkled sporadically on Sandy's body. Sandy turned her head to look at Hubo, who made this move to her. The cold indifference made Hubo recall the sense of despair in Tozala Yuri's labyrinth. Boom. Didn't do anything. Sandy, who seemed to have lost consciousness and was controlled, fanned the wind wings and cut through the air, flew into the sky in an instant, and then turned into a human being who could only fly into the sky even if Hubo used Hawkeye. Can see a little bit of height. Hey, yip, yip, yip. At the same time, clouds of black spots in the sky also flew down to the ground. Each and every one of those black spots turned out to be 10 Song's phantom species. Magic soldiers cast the barrier. A roaring order came, and a magic barrier covering the entire range of Saint Kukensai appeared in the sky, but a few phantoms still flew into the barrier. Bishop Ino seems to need to entrust your god's punishment army. A man with an ordinary appearance but exuding an extremely sharp aura said. Of course. Ino immediately issued an order, and a god punishment army rode a griffin and flew into the sky. Griffin is an air unit that every kingdom will invest heavily in. At this moment, the kingdom's army and the people of the temple have reached a consensus on cooperation. The temple sent light elemental fighters to restrain the demons, and the kingdom sent griffins to help them fight in the sky. Let's hunt down those poor demons who unfortunately came in. The man next to Ino drew out the long sword in his waist, and the soldiers who received the order were not afraid of the demons at all, but went to the position of the demons in the barrier with excitement. Be careful. At this moment, Sandy flew away, leaving only Hubo and the others. Just when Li's Hubo was anxious to know where Sandy was flying. Coincidentally, 3 phantom species flew over in the sky, which made Hubo have to face the critical situation in front of him first. The 2 phantoms attacked Hubo one after another, but when Hubo waved his staff, the 2 phantoms flew back as if seeing a natural enemy. The remaining phantom species cleverly avoided its sharp edge, but waved its claws to attack more, the weakest of the 4. You monster, I will definitely make you pay the price. The Yugoloth's conspiracy made Sandy look like that. All this made Hubo's eyes burn with raging flames of anger. Now that the devil wanted to hurt his friend, Hubo suddenly stretched out his right hand and grabbed the phantom's claw, preventing the phantom who wanted to attack more from reaching forward. Don't touch the phantom species. Layla, who was on the side, saw Hubo's action, but shouted in panic. Hubo was puzzled by this look, and the next moment he grabbed the phantom species' right hand. He was constantly eroded by the black shadow on the phantom species. 251 Obatu City. There must be a reason for Layla to remind herself this way, but the situation is not to think about it. Hubo continued to pinch the phantom species' claws with all his strength, and then the stick in his left hand stabbed at the phantom species along with Hubo's roar. Hey, yip, yip. The stick easily pierced through the body of the phantom species, just like the black shadow of the phantom species eroded Hubo's right hand, and the stick also emitted holy light to purify the phantom species. Thousands of trees. Without stopping for a moment, Hubo drew a magic formula, and then the towering trees enveloped the remaining 2 phantom species. For flying demons like the phantom species, myriad trees restrained them very well. Although the black shadows on these 2 phantom species gradually decayed the surrounding trees, more trees replaced the decayed trees immediately, making it impossible for them to break free. Hubo stared intently at the 2 phantom species, and then found a chance for one phantom species to resist the trees and reveal its flaws. Immediately chanted layer after layer of cubes, and then stomped on them one after another, slamming the staff violently. Shua. It can only be said that the blessing of the holy sword is too strong, and the phantom species, which should have caused a lot of headaches, were easily purified and died under the attack of the holy sword. In this way, there is only the last phantom species left, without any effort. Under the double interference of Hubo's staff and the overgrown trees, the last phantom species can only look at Hubo's staff with hatred. Into its body. 020. Hey, yip, yip. After the dying roar, a ball of white light appeared where the 3 phantom species died, and then the 3 escaped into Hubo's body one after another. Quickly go to your right hand to purify. Yinla stepped forward and said hastily. The most terrifying thing about the devil is its dark devouring power, which can expand the darkness in a person's heart. Therefore, after being attacked by the demon's darkness, one must go to the temple in time to purify the dark devouring power. Should be all right. Hubo raised the right hand that was holding the phantom seed and showed it to Layla. Although the dark phantom on the phantom seed didn't attack just now, what was strange was that there was a slight pure light in Hubo's hand. Hubo, do you still know how to use light elements? Layla looked at Hubo's state in amazement. She could feel the pure and holy power in the light of Hubo's right hand, which was similar to those opened by the holy knights in the temple. The physical state is the same, even more pure than them. Yes, yes. Hubo scratched his head and Maha responded. I must have never learned any light-type moves, so there is only one explanation for this effect. That is the change brought about by signing the contract with Harry, because after I signed the master-servant contract with Harry, what I proved is exactly as the right hand. Hari's holy purifying power impressed Hubo deeply. It was enough to purify the dragon clan of his own kind. The dragon pattern on his right arm has troubled Hubo for a long time, during the time he was working in the magic restaurant. Every time he goes to the training ground to exercise, he has to wear long sleeves to go out. The weather is still hot, coupled with the sweat from physical exercise. Hubo is very envious of those who can wear a vest and exercise as they like. Since Harry left, the dragon tattoo on his arm is gone. But he didn't expect that his right hand would receive such a gift of power. Hubo was also thankful that he didn't use his left hand to resist the claws of the phantom species, otherwise he would have to go to the temple to purify it now. Are you all right? Candy trotted over and asked worriedly after the group of soldiers not far away wiped out the phantom species to resolve the crisis. Where's Miss Sandy? Candy stopped in front of Hubo, glanced around and saw Sandy. Hubo took a deep breath, and said with difficulty what happened. Once again, he failed to protect Sandy well, which made Hubo suffer from guilt. Then, what should we do then? Candy, who learned that Sandy flew away, had a sad face and tears welled up in the corners of his anxious eyes. It happened that Prescott and Susanna were not there at this time. When Sandy was taken away by Elton Coffee, he still knew where Sandy was. But now Sandy flew away without any warning, so how can we talk about finding her again if I don't know where she flew to? Don't worry, the potion sprinkled on Aji's body is the tracking potion. Like a reassurance, Layla's words made both Hubo and Candy feel hopeful. Layla took out a video scroll from the space prop and handed it to Hubo. This is, Hubo asked suspiciously. This can see where Sandy is now. Layla explained the specific function of this influence scroll. She then took out a bottle of corresponding medicine from the space prop, then activated the image scroll, and then dripped the liquid of the medicine on the image scroll. Under Hubo's hope, images gradually emerged from the image scroll. It clearly shows the current scene around Sandy. The sea level is shining brightly in the sun. Only ships are moving slowly on the sea above. There is a port with 2 trestle bridges. However, this port has not been built yet. Carry out port construction work. This is Obatu City. Lamba Miguel jumped up and said to this scene that was so familiar to him. Obatu City. Well, that's my territory. From Ramba Miguel's words, Hubo could feel the deliberate behavior of the Yugoloth demon. The ghost girl Julie and the irrational Sandy, all this is a huge conspiracy. I'm going to, I want to take Julie's body back from that demon. Moore stepped forward, and met Hubo with determined eyes. Hubo looked at the right hands of Moore and Julie, and sighed in his heart. Suddenly he thought of a question. Count Lamba, the body you made shouldn't last forever, right? Yes. Then what was your plan from the beginning? Ramba Miguel looked at the soulless corpse girl and replied, I have prepared many such corpses. Then how long can Julie's body last? Facing Hubo's question, Ramba Miguel froze in shock. Because Julie's soul is stored on the right hand of Julie's body, that is to say, if the right hand is not connected, after Julie's body decays, Julie's soul cannot be connected to another body, and then the soul can be drawn out. That's why when Julie's right hand was connected to the dead girl, Julie's soul did not have independent consciousness but fell into a deep sleep. Hurry up. Immediately without any further hesitation, Ramba Miguel went directly to buy 3 horses. Under the watchful eye of Layla, Hubo, Maramba Miguel and the 3 rushed to Obatu City in a hurry. Julie too. Julie's right hand tightly grasped Moore's sleeve. .252 Darkness shrouded. In Obatu City, 2 civilians who were working hard in the crops looked at each other in amazement, and saw the strong wind rolling the flying sand in front of them, rolling past like turbid waves. A few crop seedlings nearby were shaken by the wind and sand, and the young leaves were curled up in yellow and fried. Why did the good weather suddenly become like this? The sky was shrouded by thunderstorm clouds at some point, but it was like night in broad daylight. This is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that these civilians simply cannot perform the task of harvesting crops. The dragon, the tornado is coming. The 2 civilians saw the tornado that suddenly appeared not far away, and ran away in panic. But this tornado was screaming like a monster, and it swept in at a speed that ordinary people like them could not imagine. The 2 civilians had no choice but to feel the unstoppable suction, and then they were blown up by the tornado. Life or death is unknown. Quick! All escaped to the underground shelter. At this moment, everyone in Obatu City ran to the shelter despite the sound of emergency escape sirens, because those who wanted to take away their property, all human beings, were blown by the tornado during this hesitant time flying into the sky. That's how it feels. The Yugoloth walked towards the tornado head-on at this moment, even though it was surrounded by a black shadow to protect it. The violent power of this tornado is about to break through this black barrier. Desperate. Feel your own true darkness. The Yugoloth drank the potion that Ramba Miguel gave him before, and the next moment it seemed to double in size. The Yugoloth, a dark magic arrow blasted forward, and the violent tornado was pierced through a hole. Although the hole was soon filled by the surrounding wind elements, it was enough to show the strength of the Yugoloth demon. Boom. The Yugoloth's claws slashed down, and the tornado was torn in half, and the sky blue hair in the center of the tornado had completely turned into a white Sandy. But what is even more surprising is that the fairy Sandy's eyes are closed, which means that all of this is created by Sandy's subconscious. Or is it controlled by a deeper level of consciousness? My king, come back. The Yugoloth demon kicked his feet, cut through the air, and jumped directly in front of Sandy. The black magic power floated under its feet and propped it up in the sky, and the Yugoloth demon took out the white lotus flower that gathered the souls of countless races. Gathered the souls of almost all races, and absorbed Julie's right hand that was chopped off, and the blackness of despair that was forcibly stripped of her soul. Just holding this white lotus is enough to make a human heart devoured by the darkness in the depths. The Yugoloth demon wants to use this white lotus as the foundation. Awaken the 6th devil in Sandy's body. The Yugoloth demon approached Sandy with the white lotus, and suddenly felt an attack that made it palpitate. Bang! A dark light appeared all over the Yugoloth demon. But the power of attacking it is too great, so big that the Yugoloth demon can only quickly retreat out of the range of the attack. How is it possible? On the face of the devil, the Yugoloth demon, there was a frightened expression. Sandy in front of its line of sight is surrounded by wind blade barrier at this moment. And the power is completely different from the previous 2 times. This power even makes it impossible for the Yugoloth demon to break through. The awakening of the soul of the 6th demon king is far from enough, so the first part of the plan is to let Sandy obtain huge magic power. That's right. All these conspiracies have been closely related since Elton Coffee used Sandy as the eye of the bloody formation. The blood-colored formation continuously sucked away the magic power of the surrounding area, and stuffed it into Sandy's body. In this way, after the soul of the 6th demon king wakes up, the body where this soul resides can also have the magic power equivalent to the reputation. But now, when the soul of the 6th demon king in Sandy's body is in a semi-awakened state, for some reason, she can use the stored magic power in her body. This is a point that the Yugoloth demon did not expect at all. You must know that only by melting the White Lotus into Sandy's mind can you complete the final step of the 6th demon king's awakening. Hey, the Yugoloth demon laughed at himself, and this smile no longer had the meaning of Gia's ease. Immediately afterwards, the Yugoloth demon enveloped the White Lotus in layers of black shadows. Resuscitate. Then let despair cover this world again. The Yugoloth demon rushed into the wind blade barrier like a madman at this moment. The maintenance time to restore its original strength is only 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, the Yugoloth demon will return to the state of the previous serious injury. Therefore, in order to revive the Supreme 6th Demon King in its heart, it cannot afford to waste a second of time thinking about it. Countermeasures. 0. Seeking flowers. Crack, crack, crack. The Yugoloth, who had no defense for a moment, was cut into countless pieces by the wind blade barrier. But the White Lotus flower, wrapped in all the magic power of the Yugoloth, successfully resisted the wind blade, and then escaped into Sandy's mind. Ah, then it then is. Sandy felt a strong wind pressure erupting around her. The Yugoloth demon that had been cut into pieces was completely crushed into powder, and then drifted away with the strong wind. The Yugoloth just died completely. Phew. The magic power released in the next moment was all withdrawn, and Sandy fell down in a daze. Boom. However, the surroundings were surrounded by the wind spontaneously, causing Sandy to smash a big hole in the ground, but she did not suffer any damage. The dark clouds shrouded in the sky disappeared, and the tornadoes dancing wildly also disappeared. The people of Obatu City who hadn't reacted came out of the underground shelter to watch everything return to calm. If it weren't for the dilapidated building remnants around, it wouldn't even feel that such an irresistible powerful tornado just happened. At this moment, Sandy's mind is not peaceful at all. Remembered, forgotten, missed, hated. Depressed in my heart, I want to cry. Malicious, well-meaning, orderly, messy. Lock up that pale compliment. Speculative framed woven cursed. Take what you love and do harm. It is nothing but the necessity of life, the invisible blackness, and the last expression is despair. The girl has already moved towards the invisible darkness. At this moment, Sandy's hair has changed from sky blue to pure white, and finally turned into endless black. Boom. With a roar that annihilated everything, Sandy Murin stood up, opened her eyes covered in black, and the magic power in her body turned into darkness, spreading out in all directions like an explosion, completely covering the entire city of Obatu. So those people who just thought they had survived fell into a deep sleep and fell to the ground. Black magic power emerged from all of them, and their hearts were gradually devoured by the invisible darkness. And the 3 Hubo who were about to arrive in Obatu City watched in horror as the direction of Obatu City was shrouded in darkness. But no matter how frightened the 3 of them are, they still have a sense of death to face. 2.53 million bushes. What the hell is this darkness? The 3 of them arrived outside the city gate of Obatu City. Hubo looked at the city wall in horror. The soldiers who were supposed to be on guard were all covered in dark mist and passed out at this moment. This should be the dark magic power unique to demons, which can arouse the darkness in people's hearts infinitely. Ramba Miguel swallowed hard to cover up the trembling tone in his throat due to fear. If this magical power cannot be purified as soon as possible, these people shrouded in darkness will turn into slaves of darkness, completely controlled by the darkness in their hearts. Ramba Miguel couldn't imagine the scene of that scene at all. The entire Sansa kingdom would definitely become a hell on earth, because Sandy's location should be there. Hubo murmured looking at the thickest black clouds in the sky, and the next moment Hubo drew a magic circle on the ground. 10,000 trees, 803, clustered. The only way to avoid this situation is to let Sandy wake up now. Facing Hubo's question, Lamba Miguel nodded and admitted. Although Hubo didn't know the specific reason, it must have something to do with Yugoloth and the 6th Demon King. Hubo looked at Moore and Ramba Miguel next to him, and he would definitely have a duel with the Yugoloth at that time. Hubo took out his staff again and squeezed it hard. The strength of the Yugoloth should not be lower than that of the superior demon on the second floor of Tozala Yuri's labyrinth, but half of its body has been wiped out by itself, and it has a staff of its own, so it should be sure to defeat it. Let's go. After both of them nodded, Hubo controlled the branches of thousands of trees to wrap the 3 of them around, and then extended them all the way to send them inside the city wall. After falling, Hubo dissipated and thousands of trees grew, and suggested to the 2. Next, I will face Sandy, and the 2 of you will find Julie's body. But will you? Moore asked worriedly, doing so completely through the danger to Hubo. Don't worry, I will definitely stop this. Then you take these 3 bottles of magic medicine. Without being too pretentious, Ramba Miguel took out 2 bottles of medicine from the space props, one of which can create a barrier on the ground. As for the effect, it is enough to resist the power of a magical spell. The other bottle is a recovery potion, which can speed up the healing of wounds and the regeneration of red blood cells after drinking. The last bottle is a potion that restores a certain amount of magic power. Be careful, I'll go there first. Hu Bo took the potion and put it in the space prop, and solemnly instructed the 2 of them. Then Hu Bo broke out with all his strength and ran to the bottom of the thickest black cloud. Let's go too, we don't have much time left. Lamba Miguel looked solemnly at the direction Hu Bo left, and then looked at Julie's right hand on Moore's sleeve. The guilt in his heart turned into a sigh, all of which were caused by his own sins, which made Ramba Miguel make a decision in his heart. Moore looked fondly at Julie's right hand, and then ran towards Lamba Miguel's house with extremely determined eyes. Boom, boom, boom. The closer he got to the bottom of the dense black cloud, the louder the loud noise, and the extremely cold wind blowing around made Hu Bo feel icy cold from the bottom of his heart. Cube, Hawkeye, although he really wanted to rush to Sandy, but without any plan was the most reckless behavior. At about 300 meters away, Hu Bo chanted one cube after another, and then stepped to a high place. Standing on a high place, Hu Bo looked at all the scenes in front of him with the eagle-eye technique, like long snakes in the wind, waving wildly, extremely ferocious. There is no undamaged place around. The roof of the house was removed, and the whole house was destroyed. The surrounding trees were uprooted and stirred up with the sawdust of the strong wind. Even the ground was lifted. The soil is even more foggy around. Where will the Yugoloth be? Hu Bo scanned Sandy's surroundings, but he couldn't feel the presence of the Yugoloth at all. Sandy's full head of thick black hair made Hu Bo feel very ominous. Black magic power emerged around her, just like the dark magic power shrouded in the comatose people in the city. It can be known that Sandy is the root cause of this scene. What Ramba Miguel said to himself is vivid in his memory, and now he must stop Sandy from continuing to look like this. Even if you can't know the location of the Yugoloth, you must have the worst plan for the Yugoloth to attack. Hu Bo would definitely not be able to use double falsehoods to stab the staff towards Sandy, then the only way left is to forcibly stun him to make his consciousness unconscious. Spinning fire shield. Although he was not particularly proficient, it was not yet the time of battle, so Hu Bo first blessed him with a shield. With Sandy's appearance, Hu Bo knew he couldn't compete, so his plan had to be fast, so fast that Sandy couldn't even react. Sandy should definitely be able to react to the time when the space teleportation self comes out from the teleportation side. Then you can only cast shape-shifting, this magic that can change positions in an instant. The biggest difficulty at present is how to create trees around Sandy, and Sandy's wind blade barrier impressed Hu Bo deeply. If you directly cast 10,000 trees overgrown, you will definitely be crushed by the wind blade in the first time. Hu Bo squatted down accumulating energy, always ready for the impact of a kick, and now he wanted to experiment with a possibility. Yuan Li Dan floating. Hu Bo kept singing behind him, the first magic he learned in a different world. It didn't take long for thousands of Yuan Li bullets to appear behind Hu Bo, that's right, thousands of them. Hu Bo took out the bottle of magic recovery potion given to him by Ramba Miguel from the space props, drank it in one gulp, and filled his body with so much magic power consumed in the next moment. Under Hu Bo's control, a Yuan Li bomb flew towards Shandy, but Shandy didn't even attract his eyes. When the Yuan Li bomb entered a range of about 100 meters, a beam of the same size as the 60-fen Yuan Li bomb suddenly appeared. Black magic barrier. The Yuan Li bomb seemed to be melted, and it was blocked without making any sound. Then what about 10? Hu Bo controlled the fusion of more than a dozen Yuan Li bullets, turned into a Yuan Li group, and blasted at Sandy again. Correspondingly, at about 100 meters away, a black magic barrier of the same size as the Yuan Li group still appeared, offsetting the Yuan Li group again. What about different directions? Hu Bo controlled thousands of Yuan Li bombs, aiming at Sandy's hands, feet, head, and body to launch attacks in 6 different positions, and they were blocked by the black magic barrier in sequences before. The guess in Hu Bo's heart has basically been confirmed, and the next step is the final experiment to completely confirm the idea in his heart. 254 Harry. Yuan Li bullet rain. Hu Bo slammed all the Yuan Li bullets floating in the air behind him towards Shandy in one breath, densely packed and powerful. Finally, under this offensive, Sandy on the ground looked up with dull eyes. It seemed that after gathering too many tiny attacks, she would feel troublesome. Boom, 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 boom. But it was just that. The strong dark magic power on Sandy's body was reduced a little, replaced by a black magic barrier with a flat mirror in the sky. All the Yuan Li bombs hit the barrier, making a violent explosion sound of magic colliding. But these Yuan Li bombs really expected it a long time ago, and they didn't shake the black magic barrier at all, and there was not even a single crack on the barrier. Faced with this scene, Hu Bo did not show a discouraged look, but a confident smile appeared on his face. At the next moment, Hu Bo kicked out suddenly, and with the help of propulsion, rushed towards Sandy. Similarly, when Hu Bo was about 100 meters away from Sandy, the dark magic power turned into monster minions, attacking Hu Bo mercilessly. But just as the attacks transformed by these dark magic powers were about to approach Hu Bo, a spherical barrier appeared around Hu Bo to envelop him, and then all these magic powers were blocked by the barrier. The surrounding wind howled, blowing Hu Bo's hair flying up without any image, 09 even blowing so that Hu Bo couldn't even breathe and felt a sense of suffocation. But Hubo had a look of joy on his face at the moment, because just like his plan, the magic potion that could resist magic attacks perfectly resisted the autonomous attack of Sandy's dark magic power. I have come to a conclusion through the experiment of thousands of Yuanli bullets, that is, Sandy's two magic powers are one autonomous and the other non-autonomous. What is autonomous is the dark magic power on her body, and what is involuntary is Sandy's wind element magic power. For all the attacks just now, including her current approach, Sandy just used dark magic power. However, her wind element magic power was chaotic and indiscriminately attacking the surrounding things, and did not resist Hubo's attack. In a disguised form, it shows that Sandy's current main consciousness should be dominated by the soul of the sixth devil, but Sandy's wind element is struggling with faint resistance. Then his own stick has an absolute advantage in the face of dark magic. Hubo chanted magic, and the whole body of the stick was entangled by the branches. Since the stick can restrain the dark magic power, as long as I use this existence to send the stick to Sandy's side, I can transfer to Sandy's side through transposition, and I can move Sandy to the side. Stunned. Shua. Hubo suddenly threw the entangled staff at Sandy with all his strength. The impact of falling from the sky forcefully tore apart the air, and the staff emitted an incomparably holy light, illuminating the entire sky, dispelled the black clouds in the sky. This made the dark magic power on Sandy's body completely irresistible. No matter how many layers of dark magic power barriers gathered, they were pierced layer by the stick. Shifting and repositioning. Seizing the time, just when the stick was pierced and approaching Sandy, Hubo cast this special conditional magic. At the next moment, the positions of Hubo and Tongzong were exchanged, and Tongzong appeared at the high altitude where Hubo was originally, and was falling again. Boom. A dull beating sound came from the neck. But Hubo felt that after he succeeded, the result was not successful. Rather, the result made Hubo feel even more suffocated and desperate. Because Sandy's dull eyes disappeared, replaced by a pair of eyes with blood-red pupils. Sandy stared at Hubo with a charming smile, and then Hubo knelt down. Hiss. It was as if a mountain was being carried on his back, and he could not bear the pressure on the ground. There was a deadly pain in the heart, as if being pinched by someone, as if with a slight force, my heart would be crushed and burst. This is far from what makes Hubo feel the most desperate. The most desperate thing is that his whole body is shrouded in darkness just like those unconscious people. The reappearance of the parents' car accident, the contemptuous eyes of the people around him, the resentment of the werewolf being killed by him. All the things related to Hubo are like cutscenes, flashing crazily in Hubo's consciousness over and over again. Hubo finally realized personally that when the darkness in his heart is infinitely magnified, he cannot freely produce despair. At this moment, Sandy, who was smiling evilly, looked at Hubo who was lying on the ground. When her right hand froze, the dark magic power gathered in her hand and turned into a long knife. Crack. Looking at Hubo with merciless indifference, Sandy raised her right hand, and Hubo's entire right arm was cut off in response. Ah! Blood gushed out like a spring, and Hubo was relieved from the inner state of being constantly magnified by the darkness. But the price of relief was the pain of having his right arm cut off completely. As if screaming to the point of powerlessness, the blood flowed out and turned Hubo's whole body into a pool of blood. Hubo only felt his consciousness getting colder and heavier. This made Hubo feel tired, he wanted to sleep, and had a good sleep without thinking about anything that bothered him. Boom. The staff finally fell from a high altitude to the ground, and the impact force of the fall smashed a huge hole in the ground, and made a violent sound. I still have unfinished business, and there are still people I want to save. Thanks to the sound, the gradually blurred consciousness suddenly came to sobriety. I haven't found my parents in this world yet, I haven't rescued Sandy who is controlled by the soul of the sixth devil, and I haven't left my footprints in this gorgeous and colorful world. Hubo is driven by too many beautiful things, and this is the desire that Hubo is trying his best to realize at the moment. Ah! Hubo gritted his teeth and took out the recovery potion given to him by Ramba Miguel from the space props. Without any extra strength to open the medicine bottle, Hubo directly stuffed the whole bottle of magic potion into his mouth. Crack! The teeth broke the medicine bottle vigorously, and the residue of the medicine bottle pierced Hubo's mouth with blood. But all the magical medicine in the medicine bottle flowed out, and flowed into Hubo's body along with his throat. Bah! Hubo stood up with difficulty, and spat out all the residue of the medicine bottle in his mouth along with the blood on the ground. As expected of Ramba Miguel, the existence at the top of the magic pharmacist, the blood flowing from Hubo's right arm has stopped at this moment, and the lost blood in the body can clearly feel that new blood is being continuously regenerated. Sandy. Hubo murmured the name of the person he loved in front of him, wondering if it was the reason for the shock and suffering in his heart. At this moment, Sandy's scarlet eyes actually shed tears. It's fine if I don't become the sixth devil. Hubo felt hopeful in his heart. This scene shows that the soul of the sixth devil has not completely wiped out Sandy's original soul, and then everything will be true. Just start. I have already experienced the despair of the invisible darkness, but this despair has not destroyed me, so what is there to be afraid of? Because Hubo has always believed in one thing. The deepest part of despair is hope. Shusha. Haha. Hubo's right arm made a strange sound. It seems like something is about to break out of its shell. Harry, lend me your strength. Hubo fixed his eyes and roared loudly, and then the lost right arm broke out. A brand new right arm appeared, but this right arm did not the human right arm. 0.255 dragon power. After stopping the bleeding from the wound, Hubo could feel the faint throbbing of his right arm. Hubo remembered the master-servant contract he signed with Harry, the dragon pattern on his right arm. Definitely not a simple decoration. So Hubo guessed a possibility, whether he can use the power of the dragon. The power of the dragon is the only successful precedent in the history of this world. According to legend, the first holy knight of the temple. When I was killing demons, I got a dragon egg by chance. Then the paladin let the egg hatch, and the young dragon that came out of the dragon egg saw the paladin at first sight, and regarded him as his father. As the young dragon grew up, the paladin found that he had gained some power to wield the dragon, which was called dragon power. Hubo knew that he should be the first human being to sign a master-servant contract with a dragon. It was a coincidence. Hubo wanted to take a gamble to see if he could use the power of the dragon. Now it seems really successful. Hubo looked at his right arm. The ferocious roaring blue veins popped up, and the skin was covered with dragon scales unique to the dragon clan, showing a dark red color like a ruby. There are also looming holy mantras on the dragon scales, which can feel more holy than holding a stick. The color, shape, and power are all exactly the same as Harry's, so Hubo can be sure that this is Harry's dragon power. Hubo raised his head and looked at the tear-stained Sandy. The stun method had failed. Could it be that the only way to stop all this was to kill Sandy? The soul of the sixth demon king will definitely be completely purified by the sacred power of the stick. But it is hard not to be affected by Sandy's original soul in this way. The soul is affected, and Hubo can't imagine what will happen. Will Sandy become a vegetable like her previous life? Thinking about it like this, Hubo felt more and more confused, and at this moment, the dark magic power on Sandy's body became more intense. Dispel it. Seeing this scene, Hubo swung his right arm violently, and hit the top of Sandy's head with a straight fist that pierced the air. What echoed was the dark magic power on Sandy's body, all of which were illuminated, and then there is no trace of darkness left. But Sandy also clutched her head in pain, screaming crazily. Hubo stopped his action with distress and helplessness. These dark magic powers are the magic power in Sandy's body. If I purify these magic powers, I will also feel the same pain, so the method of purifying all the dark magic powers in Sandy's body failed helplessly. Boom. Unexpectedly, just as Hubo stopped, Sandy stretched her hands forward, and a huge dark sphere condensed in her hands. The sphere rushed towards Hubo, and Hubo could only dodge quickly to the sides. When the sphere hit the ground, the whole ground seemed to have been baptized by a bomb. It is conceivable that if Hubo hadn't dodged it, there might be a big hole in his body. Hubo took a deep breath and looked at Sandy with a sharp expression. If you can't get a solution as soon as possible, you won't be able to hold on for long. After all, Hubo could feel the enormous magical power in Sandy's body that horrified him. But what to do? Hubo was frantically thinking about countermeasures. In fact, there is the most straightforward and simplest method. That is to eliminate the soul of the sixth devil directly in Sandy's mind. Although Hubo is not sure what the chance of success is, but now there is nothing else to do except try this method. Spatial teleportation. Hubo chanted this magic while running towards Sandy in a daze. The next moment, Sandy really ran towards Hubo, who was running towards her, and stretched out his hands again to gather the dark sphere in his hands. Boom. The dark sphere hit the ground again, and there was a violent explosion. But it also failed to hit Hubo again. At this moment Hubo reached the back of Sandy through space teleportation. Hubo, who was behind Sandy, stretched out his right arm to aim at Sandy. The looming holy mantra on the arm was shining brightly at this moment, and the scales extending from the elbow to the wrist suddenly became hot, mixed with the holy light, a more concealed crimson light bloomed. Unknowingly, the screaming and frantic wind around him disappeared. No, it should be that all sounds are gone. Ah! Sandy let out a long mournful cry from her throat, and her whole body was bound by thin wires like iron pillars, turning into a cage to bind Sandy. This is exactly the Holy Spirit enchantment where Harry killed the Calamity Dragon. However, Hubo only attached holy purification power to the surface of the cage, and did not emit a trace of purification power to purify Sandy. Mage's hand. Finally, Sandy was restrained and unable to move. As Hubo chanted this magic, a hand formed by magic power appeared. Under Hubo's control, the sorcerer's hand suddenly reached out to Sandy's next to the ear. Immediately afterwards, the hand of the mage took off Sandy's earring. Sandy's earring is her space prop, and the holy spell appeared on Hubo's right arm again and pinched the earring. Space props will not be opened if they feel that they are not their own magic power. Hubo brutally purified the sensing function of the space props directly. Found it. Hubo finally found a contract among Sandy's space props. I'm very sorry for messing around with Sandy's space props, but Hubo will definitely apologize in the future. Space cutting. Hubo pulled Sandy's right hand out from outside the cage, and slammed at Sandy's right hand. The next moment, just as Lamba Miguel cut off Julie's hand, Huber also cut off Sandy's hand. Coincidentally, when the two cut it down, no blood flowed out. Julie is a dead body, while Hubo is a space utilization ability. The difference is that Julie can feel pain, but space cutting does not feel pain. By Nuo Zhao. Hubo turned into a needle with magic power, gently pierced Sandy's right hand, and a small amount of blood flowed out. The next moment, under the holy spell on Hubo's right arm, the dark magic power on Sandy's body was like a good baby, unable to resist, and could only be played by Hubo. Driven by Hubo, he intercepted a little dark magic power from Sandy's body, and then felt the familiar perception. This intercepted dark magic power merged into the tiny amount of blood flowing out of Sandy. Sandy. Hubo spread out the contract, fiddled with Sandy's right hand, and then signed Sandy's name on the contract with Sandy's magical blood. In the next moment, Hubo's sanity completely disappeared into his mind. This scene was exactly the same as when Harry was in a coma. Hubo took the initiative to sign the master servant contract. In fact, Hubo came up with this method just after going through that situation. This method can directly hit the soul of the sixth devil. 256 soul memories. Selena Gomez posts powerful bikini then and now. More. 487. 122. 162. At this moment, Ramba Miguel and more walked into the house. The magic lamp inside the house should be affected by the wind created by Sandy outside the window, flickering and flickering, making the already lifeless house even more weird. They also passed out in the same way. The two squatted down and checked the status of the fallen servants in the house, and found that they were all corroded by the invisible black and passed out. Julie, can you feel the position of your body? Moore asked softly, putting Julie's right hand in his hand. Julie shook her right hand twice to show that she couldn't perceive it. Be careful. Ramba Miguel took out 2 bottles of magic potions with a serious expression, and handed one of them to Moore. This point of Blake was due to his negligence, but it was very deadly, like a knife resting on his neck, and if he was not careful, he would be decapitated. The two walked to the door of the secret room, and Moore pushed the door open forcefully. Under Moore's signal, Ramba Miguel took out a bottle of magic potion and smashed it on the ground, and then the room was filled with golden balls, and these balls continued to glow, illuminating the entire room. Julie, Moore exclaimed, looking at being tied up in a cage. A severed hand was so lonely and helpless in the gap of the cage. Julie's completely dead expression, although 810 Moore understands that this is the appearance of losing his soul, but his heart is still bleeding. When Julie faced panic and helplessness, she didn't know anything. This kind of powerlessness made Moore feel for the first time, and he wanted to gain the power to protect others. Julie's right hand seemed to feel Moore's mood at the moment, and she kept rubbing gently on Moore's hand in an attempt to comfort her. Ramba Miguel stepped forward silently, and took out the corresponding magic potion to release the cage state. Will Julie return to her original form? Ramba Miguel connected Julie's right hand to Julie's severed hand, but Julie still looked like an empty shell that had lost her soul. I don't know. Facing Moore's question, Ramba Miguel sighed again and was unable to respond. This is the first time I have encountered this situation. Ramba Miguel never thought about the fate of Julie's soul at the very beginning. It is better to say that in order to revive Lily's soul, other things are not important in his eyes, are nothing but victims. But Yugoloth's heart-wrenching words made Ramba Miguel realize that he was wrong, so wrong that he didn't know how to make up for it. Ajed. Wait. Moore doesn't want to pursue too much who was right and who was wrong in this matter, and now he only prays that Julie can return to her original state. Bang. At this moment, something unexpected happened. The door was closed by someone. Black. Ramba Miguel twisted his face in anger, and he punched the door with all his strength. But the door of the secret room did not move at all. This secret room was specially prepared by Ramba Miguel for a certain situation. Needless to say, this door will definitely not be easily broken open. Cough. Thick smoke drifted in from nowhere in all directions, and the sudden rise in the surrounding temperature made the two of them have a very bad premonition. Stop. Under Moore's stop, Ramba Miguel also stopped. The two quietly listened to the surrounding environment, the sound of something being burned and collapsing. Damn it. Ramba Miguel, who finally understood the source of the thick smoke, hit the door again angrily. At this moment, Blake should have directly set a fire to burn the house down, and all the servants in the house, as well as Moore and the 3 of them, died in the fire. It's really a good calculation. If Black directly assassinates, Ramba Miguel is absolutely confident to resist it immediately, and then take out the space sound transmission props that every family has. What will happen will be different and form the Earl family behind him. But Blake's cleverness lies in the fact that he doesn't use his own hands but uses natural disasters such as fires to kill them. Ramba Miguel is sure that Black must have arranged everything outside the house, and his space sound transmission props will definitely be blocked as soon as they are sent out. Thinking of this, Ramba Miguel inevitably showed a look of despair. He prepared a lot of magic potions, especially defensive potions. But these potions are not helpful to break this door, even if it is just a novice magic pharmacist. The rotten potion learned will be of great help. Is there no way? Moore looked at Ramba Miguel's eyes flickering, and knew that the fate of the next 3 people might be. An atmosphere of despair filled the secret room. The fire could be blocked by defensive medicines, but the most deadly thing was the thick smoke produced by the fire. At that time, the 2 of them might not be burned to death by the fire, but choked to death by the thick smoke. Death. Moore murmured the word. One day people will die. The soul drifts away and becomes what Julie is now. A body with an empty shell that never wakes up. Moore didn't want to accept this ending. At least Moore hoped to see Julie smile again before she died. As long as he can smile, Moore thinks death is not scary, right? Boom. Swish. There was a sudden loud noise outside the door, and the next moment, in the astonished eyes of Moore and Ramba Miguel, they saw the whole house being lifted up. Wind can intensify a fire, but too much wind can directly extinguish the fire. At this moment, there was a strong gust of wind in the entire house, so strong that it could blow the house down. What's more amazing is that the 2 of them survived the strong wind without any damage. Moore looked around and found that not only the 2 of them, but also all the unconscious servants were not affected by the strong wind at all. Don't be surprised. A woman in the distance walked over slowly, and she was holding a man in her hand. This man was recognized by Ramba Miguel at the first sight. It was Blake who made the fire. You are. The woman in front of her is not that kind of beautiful face, but in Ramba Miguel's eyes, this woman is so holy that no one can get distracted. And this woman should be younger than Ramba Miguel, but he still couldn't help asking with respect. I'm just here to save my reckless son. The woman looked at the black clouds in the sky that dissipated at some point with her gentle eyes, revealing the clear sky, and hummed softly a song that the two of them had never heard before. The time for the dead girl in your arms is running out. The woman pointed to Julie in Moore's arms. The ultimate destination of the soul is rebirth, but it's enough to create memories again. The woman explained to Moore with a gentle smile. Although Moore didn't understand the meaning of this sentence at all, it was strange that his impetuous mood calmed down. Who the hell are you? I'm just the guard of the two worlds. After saying this, the woman disappeared, and disappeared directly in front of Moore and Ramba Miguel, as if she had just everything as an illusion. This woman is just their fantasy. 257 bonds. Interesting for you. The 7 most famous plus-size models in the world. Moore. 229. 57. 76. Don't come here every day. Moore and Julie just went to travel and sketch for a month, and they will come back. Hubo, who was studying magic spells in the dormitory at the moment, was interrupted by a knock on the door unfortunately. This was the 6th time in a month that I saw Ramba Miguel come over to ask if Moore and Julie had gone back with an anxious expression. Julie. Ramba Miguel has become completely unrecognizable to those who know him since he repented. Known for his expressionless face, he now keeps talking about Julie, and now that Julie and Moore have gone out, this behavior has become more serious. Every sentence has the word Julie. After the 2 incidents of coma in the city of Obatu and the appearance of phantom species in San Kukensai, the entire Sanza kingdom, no, the entire human sphere caused a big shock. Now even countries like the Sanza kingdom, where temples are not welcomed, are funding the development of temple power. Humans have indeed lived too easily these years. Apart from being attacked by demons on the frontier, they have long forgotten that demons have other methods of attack. The incident in Obatu city awakened mankind. Although no one found out what the purpose of the devil's massive battle was, it was enough for the kingdom to cooperate with the temple. The temple has a special blessing of the sacred hood, and within the scope of the sacred hood, demons will never be summoned. So now in the sky of St. Kukensai, as long as you look carefully, you can find a trace of golden light gathered and wrapped. As for Ramba Miguel, he made perfect use of Blake's existence, the enemy's spy, and the fallen man. When Black was in a coma and then was tried in a cruel way of forcibly extracting his soul, all his experiences were exposed, especially the point about the demonic breath. In an instant, Joshi Kingdom stood on the cusp, especially the second prince. Black was his direct subordinate, which made the second prince who had arranged everything originally had no choice but to disappear and temporarily hide from the limelight. As the meaning of reincarnation determined, Hubo asked sadly before Ramba Miguel told them the reason for their rescue. That woman has made him completely sure that she is his dreaming mother. The fact that the soul of the 6th Demon King was perfectly solved proves this point. The evil soul of the Demon King can be wiped out with just the magic book, it is too reluctant. But I don't know why his mother didn't show up in front of him to meet him, but his parents must have their own difficulties. Hubo is no longer a child, as long as he knows that his parents must live in this world, a layer of protection has been created in his heart. The reason must be that my height is too low, and it is far from reaching the height of my parents. If the height is reached, I will definitely be able to meet my parents, right? That's right. That means Julie. Ramba Miguel put his hands on his chin and looked worried. The soul of rebirth means that the soul will enter another world without worries, and in the end, the only ending for Julie is to dissipate. Although it is sad and I don't want to admit it, the ending will not change. At this moment, in a room near the sea in the kingdom of Doya, Moore holds Julie in his arms and watches the ebb and flow of the sea. It was after 3 days that the soul of Julie's right hand finally returned to her whole body. She showed a smile that made Moore cry with joy, and appeared in front of Moore again, and then Moore passed out again. What a man who can't give women a sense of security. Who asked Moore to stay by Julie's side without sleeping for 3 days and nights? If it wasn't for Julie showing up, Moore's state would be very bad. But maybe it is feeling Moore's incomparable feelings that Julie's soul will be revived. Can you calm down and draw? Moore lowered his head and felt the gentle touch of Julie's hair, which really made him sink into it completely. Well, the sea is great. Moore, I want to paint now. Julie's smile is so relaxed and warm. Then paint to your heart's content. Moore responded affirmatively. This is why Julie can smile so much. She doesn't need to think about anyone, and only needs to do what she wants to do with each other. Isn't this the most perfect life? Flipping through the art book, trying to draw a lily-style painting, I was so tired that I fell asleep on the floor. Moore stayed by Julie's side like this, looking at her without wanting to miss anything. Julie. Moore stroked Julie's face, felt the lifeless coldness of her face, and called out her name softly and involuntarily. Wow. Julie sat up straight suddenly, as if awakened by Moore's voice. 0. Seeking flowers. Don't fall asleep in this kind of place. Moore said, pinching Julie's face. Sorry. Julie stuck out her tongue playfully. Is there anything sad? Julie suddenly pouted and asked Moore. No. Moore smiled slightly, stroking Julie's head to comfort her. In this way, day by day passed. There was no such thing as a sad thing, and Moore remembered the result of the woman pointing at Julie and saying that she would eventually die. Moore shook his head vigorously to expel the thought. Julie is here. No one can restrain Julie anymore. No one can restrain her. A month later, Moore opened the bedroom door with Julie in his arms. 0. I'm back. Julie jumped down from Moore's arms, raised her arms and smiled happily. Julie. Ramba Miguel, who was still staying in Huber's bedroom, stepped forward and hugged Julie happily. After Julie woke up, she had a good talk with Ramba Miguel. Although she didn't know what the two said, all the knots were resolved. Anyway, Hubo is finally free now. Today is the 16th time Ramba Miguel has come to the dormitory. It's like living in his dormitory, and now Hubo can finally be free. Have you figured out what to do? Hubo asked Moore while Julie was talking with Ramba Miguel. I don't know, I don't want to think about it now. Moore is a graduate of the basic class. After waiting for the opening of the Saint Saw Magic Academy, Moore will definitely not be able to stay in the dormitory. Moore is also looking for a stable job, such as opening a painting shop and becoming an autographer for a nobleman. In short, they are going to be separated. Speaking of which, Hubo is used to Moore's roommate. I want to express something, but the two big men can't do it when they say something nasty. So Hubo and Moore looked at each other suddenly, both were astonished by the other's just action, and finally looked at each other and smiled. Everything was silent. What will be everyone's fate tomorrow? Don't worry, even the most difficult moment has passed, so no matter what difficulties arise again, as long as you have the fetters that surpass everything in your heart, you will be fine.